Earlier this morning, Steven Crowder, on his program Louder with Crowder, released portions of the Nashville Trans Manifesto. It has now been confirmed by local news. And the police are furious, and they're launching an investigation into how these images leaked. Now, the presumption is it is not the full manifesto. We don't know for sure. We don't know how much was in this. But it looks like the individual in question was motivated by anti-white hatred, as well as just generally being unwell. But the hatred of white people seemed to be a strong motivating factor from the information that we have so far. So we're going to talk about that. Plus, we got a bunch of other really big news. Trump testified today, and he apparently roasted the judge and the prosecutor, or I should say the attorney for New York, calling them frauds or insinuate. That may have been his lawyer, actually, but basically breaking down all of his legitimate business practices. They're definitely trying to run him over the coals with this one. We'll talk about that. Plus, a new poll has come out. The New York Times is basically saying that if the election is held today, Donald Trump wins handily. He is ahead in 5 of 6 swing states needed to win. Now, just a warning to everybody, that doesn't mean you can sit around and do nothing, because they want to lull you into a false sense of security. You better go out and vote. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com to get the best cup of coffee you've ever had. Pick up our Halloween special edition Re-Rise with Roberto Jr. It is limited. Once it is gone, it will never exist again. So if you want this fancy art of a chicken leg bursting from the ground like a zombie as we make fun of our dead mascot, then pick it up today. But also you can get everyone's favorite Appalachian Nights and Rise with Roberto Jr. When you buy coffee from castbrew.com, you're supporting the show, and you're supporting our efforts to build coffee shops all over the place where y'all can hang out in physical reality and make friends and build community. And that's kind of the plan. So our first location is getting there. It's getting there up in Martinsburg, West Virginia. You don't want to miss out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, go to timcast.com, click join us to support our work directly, and you will get access to the uncensored members only show coming up tonight. And as a member, you can even submit questions and call in. So you don't want to miss out on that. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more is Chase Geiser.
Hey, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with all of you. This is an exciting time. I've been a fan for a long time. I started watching you, Tim, back in 2020 after the election, because you were the only guy doing 3 posts a day with updates on the news, and that's how I got into you. So honored to be here. I work for InfoWars. I'm currently hosting a show in the mornings until Owen Schroyer is back from prison, and I create AI-generated content for them.
Right on. Well, thanks for hanging out. We also got Hannah Claire.
Hey, I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. I'm glad to be back. Ian's here too.
Hi, everybody.
Great.
Thank you. Ian Crossland, musician, resident artist. I'm also wearing this sweet jacket with a pin from Tom Ellsworth from Valuetainment. What's up, Tom? I know you're out there listening. I love you, man. Thank you for the pin. Serge.
And I'm Serge.com. Yeah, let's get into it.
Here's the big news. This is the first story. It's the biggest story of the day. It's dominated the headlines. Nashville school shooter Audrey Hale's manifesto leaked. Trans murderer vowed to kill privileged white kids at Covenant School. Steven Crowder leaked photos of the manifesto on Twitter and his podcast. Nashville PD has refused to release the information despite media requests. Hale, 28, shot and killed 6 people, including 3 young kids. I believe they were all under the age of 9. On March 23rd, she was shot dead by police within 14 minutes of launching the attack. Now, the big story with this release is information about the motivations. It would seem that from what we have so far, the motivation was anti-white hatred. There are some reports that the full manifesto, the full notebook, actually contains way more. And some people are saying actually the full thing shows this individual hated everybody. But if that were true, they would need to release this to the public. Now, I don't know that's going to happen, but perhaps for whatever reason, this got leaked. It was to try and force the release of the rest of it, which I kind of don't know if that makes sense, because whoever leaked it could have just leaked the rest. We don't know exactly why only these select pages were released. And I got to be honest, I'm also not convinced there is any more. That may be an excuse where someone's trying to downplay what this individual had actually been motivated by. We have this from the Post-Millennial. Local media outlet confirms Nashville trans school shooters' anti-white manifesto pages are authentic. And then we have, of course, an investigation is currently underway after release of alleged Covenant shooters' writings, Nashville mayor says. So it's confirmed now. I believe we have multiple reporters confirming this, that the individual was motivated by anti-white hatred. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see these videos pop up. People are basically, and they've been doing this for a while, but they're making montages of all of the insane college professor and university rhetoric around violence targeting white people. And there was one that I saw on Twitter that's so shocking and insane. It's no wonder people are being radicalized by this. People are also calling out Joe Biden, who has made numerous speeches about the problems and dangers of white supremacy. Now, you can certainly argue that people are allowed to criticize and condemn white supremacy. Of course they are. But when these universities and media outlets claim that simply having a family is white supremacy, you can see how the rhetoric starts getting crazy. Now, I guess the questions are, was the FBI and were the police withholding this intentionally because of what it contained, or is something else going on?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there's a line in particular from one of the photograph pages that says, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm excited. I almost got caught, and I believe they say the summer of 2021. Mm-hmm. And so we have to wonder why does this person feel that way? There was reporting that Audrey Hale had been, under her parents' care to a certain level, that there were emotional and psychological issues already known to at least her family. But this, to me, implies something bigger than just, people were concerned about my behavior.
Which implies that there's more to the writings than just the 3 pages. I mean, if she's been planning this thing for a couple of years or had issues for a couple of years, and she's wrote about how excited for the past 2 weeks that she's been.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I bet she was writing every day for the 2 weeks doing her sort of.
Well,
and there's also a report there may be a 14-minute video.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Audrey Hale also reached out to people right before.
I'm sorry, 10-minute video. I got wrong.
That's okay.
That
If
is
there's,
okay.
I approve. It's okay. I forgive your 4-minute lapse. No, the thing is, if there had been I wouldn't be surprised if there's a video. I mean, especially with younger millennial attackers, they're more versed in social media now than ever. And so it makes sense that would be the case. I know Audrey Hale was contacting people through Instagram right before going into the school. I mean, this person was reaching out and also being extremely destructive to their fellow human beings. One of the pages, if I'm remembering correctly, was dated, I think, February of 2023. And so we know that this, manifesto, diary, whatever you want to call it, has been documenting a developing motivational pattern.
I don't think this was withheld because it was implicating the left in their radical rhetoric. I think when you look at this, you see two things. As you mentioned, the shooter said, "I almost got caught," and also says, "I'm going to be checking security." What does this tell us? The police state, the centralized policing authority, will not be there to protect you from these circumstances. And in fact, there was this was posted on Twitter in a community notes. There's a study done in 2022 that found 34.4% of mass shootings were stopped by a person who is legally armed. And when you remove gun-free zones from that metric, it increases to 51% of mass shootings stopped by individuals who are legally armed. And I think the problem here is with this manifesto, what you see is, I think we got to be careful about the anti-white propaganda angle to this, which is important. I'm not saying it's not. We should definitely call out the weird, creepy, racist, leftist, whatever. But also consider this is hugely damaging to the narrative of gun-free zones, to local politicians. If the narrative came out that gun-free zones, and this is true, everyone knows this, that gun-free zones are creating risk, but it was like the headline story, Manifesto reveals lack of security, gun-free zones, and lack of FBI integrity resulted in this happening, you're going to have people going to their politicians and be like, why did you do this? So when you look at how the FBI has... what's the meme now? Was known to the FBI. They say they do the Bart meme where it's like, say the line, Bart, and he's like, the shooter was known to the FBI.
right. Always on a list.
Every time there's always an opportunity. But what happens is you get gun control activists coming out and saying, aha, we must blame the guns, which is a complete distraction. I don't think it is always about gun control. I think it is about, people are going to get mad at us because we're the ones who created this system and made it this way. Right now, what you've got happening is Democrats arguing that we should have politicians do a thing, when in reality, it's politicians, mainly Democrats, doing the thing which resulted in the crisis in the first place, and they don't want anyone to realize that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the other aspect that's jumped out of me was that there's a very serious anti-elitist messaging throughout this. There's a specific line where Hale writes, those kids are awful at their private school with their parents' expensive cars or whatever it is, And from what I know, reporting I saw from local outlets said that Hale had attended this school. And so this behavior is bizarre in a lot of fronts, and I think now it's just a rush to spin it as fast as possible. I think that's why the anti-gun narrative is going to be so easily introduced here, but it's also important to acknowledge that this person was deeply psychologically disturbed, and if people knew this, FBI, local law enforcement, whatever, they failed the community around them.
It's weird to me that the manifesto hadn't been digitized by the perpetrator, because so often when we see events like this, part of the motive is to get it out as fast as possible. But obviously it had never been digitized because there's spelling errors and stuff in it. I mean, this is something that was like not on the internet at all, I don't think, and was just written for personal use. So I wonder what Hale was seeking to accomplish by writing this down.
Well, I'll tell you what the scary thing, I think, is when we talk about civil conflict in the United States, I often mention that I view the right as what I would call like the acute threat, whereas the left is the blunt or obtuse threat.
The chronic threat, you could say.
Well, it's not so much
That's how
chronic.
disease works, acute and chronic.
It's not chronic. It is blunt versus
sharp.
pointed and sharp. When
Piercing versus bludgeoning.
Right. Acute meaning it's extreme and it hits you hard, whereas blunt is it. You know, the left, you get hundreds of thousands of far left extremists. They go around punching and threatening people. None of these rise to a national level news story, but it's happening all the time to the point where you're getting shoplifting, you're getting these protests and occupations, and they bubble up sometimes and make the news, but it's never the most shocking story. With the right, you get some deranged lunatic going into a church. I shouldn't say the right, but what they would say is the right. What I should say is anti-left or anti-government, whatever you want to call it. And then as for the left, I think we're speaking in generalities. We should probably, I don't know if the simplification of left and right is helping for anybody, because this person's clearly not a leftist. You know what I mean? They're not a communist necessarily. Well, they probably are deeply influenced by it. But anyway, my point is this: what is typically stated by the right, by the media as the right, it's like rarely, and one guy, a lone wolf, does some crazy thing, killing a lot of people, makes international headlines, and everyone says we must stop the right, they're so dangerous. And it's bad. It's seriously bad and doesn't need to be stopped, however we can. On the left, you have the Chaz Chop protest, you have the Autonomous Zone in Minneapolis, you have the Summer of Love protests, you have the 529 insurrection. All of these things result in severe injuries and sometimes death. But what ends up happening? In the Summer of Love, you have mass riots across the entire country, 30 people die, but you don't have one person killing 30 people.
Right.
So the media doesn't treat the story like a mass death incident, even though it was. Mm-hmm. And because of that, so what's scary to me is what we're now seeing is more left ideologically aligned individuals engaging in what I would describe as acute terror and violence and extremism. And when you combine when you take a left ideological bent like this, ramp the extremism up to 11, combine it with the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of these people, and they have already engaged in mass death incidents, it's like that's starting to get much, much scarier. The right doesn't protest. They barely ever go out and march.
You don't see a lot of left wingers walking around with ARs or assault weapons.
You do.
I mean, now you do at some of these protests, but this is sort of like a new development.
In Seattle over the past probably 7 years, leftists like the John Brown Gun Club and the Red Guard or whatever they call themselves, they march around with AR-15s, and they've even been pointing them at vehicles and controlling traffic.
Saw that happen in Austin with that guy that went to prison for defending himself when it happened to him.
And so what we're starting to see over the past few years is the left has this ubiquitous fervor where they go out and smash things and destroy things, and now they're adding to their ranks serious violent extremists who are engaging in. I mean, this was earlier in the year. And the right still doesn't have, on average, any of the low-level terror, doesn't even have that much high-level terror. I think the reality is what is described as the right probably is just regular people. And what is described as the left is an activist base.
It's also this person, Audrey Hale, was like on some sort of pharmaceutical. Is this confirmed? I mean, a lot of these mass shooters are on some sort of SSRI or pharmaceutical?
I'd be willing
I read the
to
story,
bet.
but I think that there was a therapist at one point, wasn't there? I can't remember.
I don't know for sure, but I think it's a logical assumption, especially because SSRIs are widely prescribed.
What's deadlier, an AR-15 or an SSRI?
Well, that's not a real. There's no real.
The pen
metric,
is mightier than the
right?
sword. They say that. That's been quoted long. You know,
The pill is mightier than the gun.
Warp the mind, and then the
Depends
guns.
on. I would. You could theoretically argue that it is unfair to call an AR-15 deadly in any respect.
Right. Well, I would say that a gun is more likely to help you commit suicide, and then SSRI is more likely to help you kill a bunch of people before you commit suicide.
Well, so the issue is SSRIs could result in complete generational collapse. If you have mind-altering drugs being mass-produced and mass-prescribed, it could actually destroy the fabric of a nation. Whereas a rifle, which is a weapon, it's an object intended to be destructive, could actually help protect and defend a nation or destroy a nation. So it's actually kind of neutral in that regard. Right. Either way, you can say it's deadly. That's the intent of it. But if the goal of the AR is to actually stabilize, that is to say, what do they say? An armed society is a polite society. Mm-hmm. You may actually have weapons, but everyone's like, you must respect other people because they're armed and you don't want to start a fight. And that actually simmers things down. Whereas mind-altering drugs can actually just make everything go nuclear, within a few years.
Yeah, especially because you don't know how people will react to them. I mean, some people can take SSRIs for a long time and see minimal side effects. Other people become more unstable because of them. It's impossible to say, and that's the gamble we take in a pharmacologically dependent society.
And all the unstable people are likely to be more likely to be prescribed them too. So it could be that you're nuts before you get on it, and then there's this correlation that isn't causation.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point, actually. A lot of people are like, aha, this person was on medication. Yeah, maybe they're trying to stop them.
Right.
Like, maybe they were like, hey, maybe this is,
That's the thing. It's very, very hard to tell how people react to medications. It's not that there's never a case for them. Some people legitimately need them. It's a trial and error. They just give you pills and see if it works. And if they don't, we try and adjust. I mean, that's unfortunately how this works.
I think it's actually a really good point. The argument that, the person was on SSRIs, it's the medication, is similar to the liberal argument where they're like, they had a gun, it's the gun.
Yeah, right.
Right? And there are a lot of people, I think there's probably tens of millions.
was vaccinated and boosted.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
You could isolate anything.
We figured it out now.
Probably a fair point to say there are a lot of people who are taking SSRIs who are not doing this.
I hope.
Of course there are. I mean, they're so widely prescribed, and we don't have this doesn't happen all the time. I mean, this is tragic. And part of what's shocking about this is because it's so unusual, right? She's a female killer. Perhaps she doesn't think of herself that way, but a female killer who attacks somewhere that they have ties to. I mean, this is unusual for both for female attackers and for school shootings. I feel like there's more of an anonymous component a lot of times when you get mass shooters.
Like some sort of endocrine disruption or something.
Or just generally, like this is someone who is behaving in a way that we don't see. I mean, statistically, mass shooters are male. And I guess it depends on how you classify this person.
I hope let's refocuses the conversation to the dangers of racial supremacy and not white supremacy or black supremacy or Jewish supremacy or Islamic, like Arab supremacy. It's about racial supremacy and how horrible it is to think of that and to focus on that and to live in that state of mind where you think one race is trying to be superior. Like, just don't be a racist.
Well, you can actually extrapolate that further and just say the real issue is any ideology that would propose extremist solutions to their perceived problems. And so for this individual...
How do you define extremist, though? I mean,
someone willing to kill a bunch of people to impose their political will.
That makes sense.
Now, to be fair, people...
I think that's
but they throw it around a lot. Like,
but
if you're against abortion, you're an extremist,
I can already hear the leftists going, oh, so what, you're saying the U.S. government's extremists? Yes. Yes, I am. Yeah, when they're blowing up kids overseas to enact their goals, and the American people overwhelmingly say no every single time they're asked, and consistently vote for the politician who's like, no war. That being said, Nikki Haley seems to be doing well in the polls to a certain degree. But most Americans, the overwhelming majority, are like, hey, we don't want to waste money on war. So yes, there are extremists in our government willing to kill people to get what they want. But let's jump to this story. This next story, we have a tweet from Steven Crowder. Facebook is now censoring the Nashville Manifesto. This is what we saw almost immediately after the story broke. This is what the news, this is what big tech companies do. Many news media outlets, they didn't want to cover the story. Social media companies don't want to get into any kind of debate, and this is a serious problem. We now know, based on local reporting and statements from local politicians, the leaks from Steven Crowder are real, and at the time, Facebook was taking them down. Google had their stupid alert when you searched for it saying, the results are changing rapidly. Here are some other stories instead, which is what they do when they don't want you to read these stories. Here's what happens. Big tech companies basically say, if it doesn't come from the New York Times, we will not allow it. If, however, you get 5,000 local outlets reporting it, then there's nothing they can do to stop it. But they tried to stop it. Mm-hmm. And so, fortunately, I guess local news outlets immediately jumped on the story, broke through, and the story made it out. I think one of the biggest fears that Facebook and YouTube and many of these other platforms, not Rumble, not X, for instance, their fear, Steven Crowder just set the news cycle.
Right.
And the New York Times is going to try to avoid it. They're going to be like, no, don't pick up his story. We're the ones who decide what people are talking about. But they've been losing that position. Steven Crowder was questioned by these news outlets. How do you know it's real? And we stand by our reporting. And it is a political comedian on YouTube who broke the biggest story today.
Because of people in their network. I mean, from what I understood from what he was saying during his live stream, it was someone involved in Mug Club who was like, I have a contact, I know a way to get this, and they were able to verify through that. That's pretty impressive, right? I mean, this is all journalists rely on their readers for tips. This is super normal, but it is interesting that he has built such a relationship that someone would be willing to potentially take, and I don't know who the source was, like a professional risk to get them this information.
Yeah.
That shows a lot of confidence in Steven Crowder.
It's citizen journalism.
That is not citizen journalism.
Well, but the citizen gave the journalism to Crowder to amplify the message. That's an aspect of like modern citizen journalism.
So this is the idea that this is citizen journalism was created to discredit people like Steven Crowder. I know this because I was at these conventions, I was at these conferences, and I was speaking at these events, and they kept saying, "You're just a citizen journalist." And I said, "No, citizen journalism is a guy walking his dog." And then all of a sudden he sees a plane in the sky on fire. So he pulls out his phone and films it, and it crashes, and he goes, whoa. And then he tweets a video.
I guess there's no way to know who it was that delivered the message.
They didn't give it to Fox.
But that's meaningless. The New York Times has sources all day, every day. Someone in law enforcement releases information. The New York Times publishes it. Steven Crowder is no different from the New York Times. Granted, he is a comedian on YouTube, but his news apparatus that got this information and published it is the same as WikiLeaks system, the same as New York Times' system. You have someone who liaises with a source. The source provides information. The information is vetted and then reported.
I just think it's cool that this is something he has built, right? When he was posting videos initially on YouTube, I'm sure he did not expect to be in the position he is today, which is that he decided what the news was going to be about. I mean, he came out with this on a Monday for a reason. This is going to lead the news cycle, at least for the next couple of days, probably through the end of the week.
This may actually force the release of the full manifesto,
which is probably the only way we would have gotten it out.
So one of the ideas that's being put out on X, on social media, is that these are select pages, and that in reality, while everyone's highlighting the anti-white sentiment that seems to have motivated the shooter, there's way more in there, and this person hates everybody and uses slurs for everybody. But the selective release,
right,
would make it seem like it was one-sided.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, not that I want to make predictions about such a dark document, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a consistent anti-white theme, because I think, as far as I can tell, Audrey Hale was white, and I think a lot of people who are raised in or who are coming up in progressive spheres are trained to hate themselves, especially if they're white.
Well, if you look at what was said in it, the perpetrator says things like private schools and fancy khakis.
And she attended that school.
It was very Marxist-esque. It was very
right.
oppressor versus oppressed.
Exactly.
So she was taking this back to the oppressors, and she was going to get the justice, and she hoped she had a high kill count. She said things like that in the document. Right. And that's where the I posted about something critical about public schools the other day, about how they're teaching Marxism to our kids. And somebody commented and said, they don't teach Marxism at public schools. I'm like, you don't explicitly have to give out a book by Marx to be teaching Marxism. It's this idea of this oppressor versus this oppressed thing, this critical theory thing. And when you just ram that down people's heads, you end up like militarizing and radicalizing an entire generation.
Yeah, they indoctrinate people with Marxism.
Right.
They don't, unfortunately, as far as I know, actually teach the theories of Marxism enough. They should probably teach that more so that you can realize if you were being indoctrinated.
No teaching in public school.
If they taught actual Marxist theory along with history of Marxism, the children would be crying by the end of the day and say, why would anyone ever do such a thing, those poor people? The 100 million who were
1958, 1962,
died.
Great leap forward, 100 million.
It's so easy
More
to be
than
like,
that too,
we're
but
all
yes.
in this together. Let's go, all of us. And then once the revolution happens, it's
Marxism
like,
killed
now
more
who's in
people
charge?
between 1958 and 1962 than white supremacism did between 1619 and 2019.
Yeah.
No.
How many
4
people
years.
did it from 4 years?
Estimates of 100 million during the
In
Great
just
Leap
those
Forward.
4 years?
During the Great Leap Forward in China, they starved.
No, I don't think it was 100 million in 4 years.
Those are the high estimates.
100 million?
Yes, 1958, 1962. Look up the Great Leap Forward on Wikipedia. I believe estimates go as high as 100 million. There are lower ones that are in like the 50, 60 range.
Room is filled with rapid typing.
Yeah.
30 and 45.
30 and 45
Yeah,
million?
100 is the total deaths of communism, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
You got to grab the mic, brother.
Give it to me, Serge. What's the word?
We can't hear you. No one else can either.
Yeah. Just in the 100 million is over the entire period of communist China,
Yeah.
not necessarily from like the
But no.
particular
The
Great Leap Forward.
it's not. No, that's all communism.
Oh, okay.
I
cool.
believe that there is a study that estimates that 100 million Chinese died specifically from the Great Leap Forward, but it might not be the most widely accepted study. But I'm almost positive that on the Wikipedia page for the Great Leap Forward,
100 million. I think
The
is
Wikipedia
communism
says
total.
55 is the high end and
Also,
15 is the low
it is
end.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
We do have to take it
All
with
right.
a grain of salt. But
Yeah,
I believe
that's
you. I mean,
true.
I think this is one of those things where why would they?
well, it's not that bad if it's only 50 million.
Jeez, 50 million people.
no, I think your other
It's
point
still
still
way more than the
stands.
Holocaust. It's like 10 times more.
And this is like the Great Leap Forward. I mean, I can try and explain it. It's when he took like a bunch of the teachers and things, and then he sent them out to the farms and was like, "We gotta."
Yeah, he wanted no, it's the other way around. He wanted to industrialize the nation of China to make it a factory-based sort of exporter. And so he took all the agricultural people and put them in the cities, so nobody was working the farms. Then everybody that was responsible for the districts of the farms was too scared to report to their higher ups they weren't meeting quotas on harvest. Because China's, communism, you're scared to tell your boss you're not meeting numbers. And so they didn't realize that there was like a mass shortage of food until it was too late and everybody starved over like 4 years.
That's why I always feel like you can't trust any numbers that come out of China because number one, why would they report anything accurately to the outside world anyways? And also, why would they internally report accurately? There's no benefit for them.
But why would the U.S.? Yeah,
Oh.
I tweeted this out over the weekend. TikTok may be Chinese communist propaganda, but Facebook and YouTube are American communist propaganda.
that was what the Fourth Estate was all about.
Shout out to Elon Musk
We were
for
supposed to-
liberating X and to Chris Pavlovsky for making Rumble.
And for lifting up the fourth pillar. That's what these guys are doing. It's supposed to be a fourth branch of government. It's not really, but it's the Fourth Estate. It's journalism. It's the journalists that keep the politicians to task, that cover the government and make sure it's honest. And that, unfortunately, the fascism involved with the digitalization of our news media has been way too easy for the government to corrupt. So I'm happy to see organizations like Minds, Rumble, and X holding the truth. Like Rumble, they tweeted out, on X, we're holding the line about Crowder's post. They're not going to block it like this Facebook did.
Yeah, shout out.
It all started with Cambridge Analytica. After they blamed the election of Donald Trump in 2016 on social media, all of a sudden, all of the big tech companies got really scared and really ramped up their censorship because I think that there was this either explicit or unstated threat. They felt like the government was going to come in and split them up if they didn't do something.
What was the Cambridge scandal?
I don't think it was that.
You don't think so?
I think it was that they were just once again trying to manipulate and control the system.
For sure.
Yeah, so Cambridge Analytica had access to, 40 million
There's a bunch of
users.
data that was allegedly used to win the election for Trump.
And I think it's complete nonsense. The idea was that this company, Cambridge Analytica and SCL Group, had access to user data, which they used to target voters. And the reason why that's stupid and nonsensical is that we've talked to Dr. Robert Epstein, who's pointed out that Google, I love this. We can simplify the algorithmic manipulation electoral argument with a very, very simple statement. Facebook sends reminders to Democrats on election day and not to Republicans. That's the only thing they need to do to steal an election.
Do they still do that?
So according to Dr. Epstein, who appeared on the Culture War 2 weeks ago, when they were tracking their 10,000 plus user group for studying their social media experiences, they found that 59% of Republicans received a reminder, but 100% of Democrats received a reminder.
Ooh, that sounds like that should be illegal.
Yes, and when Ted
Donation
Cruz,
in kind.
absolutely, and when Ted Cruz wrote a letter saying what you are doing, we have questions about this, he said they saw instantly Google turned the bias system off in Georgia. So that means that the implication is Google is intentionally manipulating elections.
Oh, man. I made a video in 2007. I was like, vote Barack Obama. You're going to win the election. Vote for Barack Obama, everyone. Barack, you're the next president. And I was like, I felt like I was manipulating the election. I mean, in a way, I was like...
It's your fault, man.
Google, they actually featured that video and put it on the front page of the news and politics section. Talk about interfering. Like... It was not illegal, but it was just mass manipulation of vote for my guy.
Right, when they pushed your video.
Well, and probably because there's not an equal representation, right? It's whoever is willing to support Obama can be on the front page, but anyone else does not get to be on the trending page, does not get to exist at all.
It was total political bias. Both me and the guy that featured me wanted Obama to win.
See, I feel like yours isn't manipulative. Like, if you really feel like they should vote for Obama, you have a platform, you can say that, right? It's different when YouTube decides certain videos get to make it to the front page, certain videos get to be boosted by the algorithm, and it's not equally applied, right? I mean, we know this through our own experiences. I mean, you're on YouTube. There are certain videos that you know are performing well that do not make it to the pages or lists that they should because YouTube is intentionally diverting them elsewhere.
And it's not always in the best interest of the business either. Like when they censor people like Alex Jones from YouTube, we're talking like hundreds of millions of views consistently. And so it seems to me like almost a betrayal of the shareholders of the company when you're bringing people off the platform just for political motives. I wonder if there's a lawsuit avenue there because there's a duty to honor what's in the best interest of the shareholders. So the fact that there's a political motivation that seems to transcend the monetary motivation seems to me to imply that there's this Twitter files thing going on, but with all these other platforms where there's just intelligence community operatives just kind of pushing
But we do know that Nancy Pelosi's net worth, her and her husband, is around $200 million. So it's the political is monetary.
Yeah.
The political motivation, and let me just say, what a strange and unfortunate coincidence that the Clinton Global Initiative, or the Clinton Foundation, I believe, their contributions dried up shortly after Hillary Clinton lost the election.
Mm-hmm.
Just what a
They
coincidence.
just restarted it too, didn't they? The Clinton Foundation to rebuild Ukraine. That's what they said.
So
Well, that's been
the
their
general
goal all
idea is
along.
this. The idea was that the expectation with Hillary becoming president, everybody's donating money to her foundation, which is a laundering, I guess. And then the idea is if she becomes president, then those favors get paid back. They purchased something, but she lost. And this is what I really, really love. I just want to shout out that 2016 was, that election. Oh boy. I remember that night oh so well. All the Trump supporters. Well, I'm sorry. I was at the Sputnik office with Cassandra Fairbanks and Cassandra McDonald, sorry. And she was the only Trump supporter there. Everyone else was upset. People were crying, and she was laughing, crying, and it was funny. But what was really funny about it was that the establishment machine of money churn and revolving doors was just shattered in an instant. And the panic was absolutely hilarious for the DC elites who owed millions of dollars to foreign donors and lobbyists that they weren't going to be able to pay back. Now you have Matt Gaetz doing the same thing to Kevin McCarthy. And all of that money put into him becoming speaker was just ripped away from him, and he ain't going to be able to pay it back. I just love watching the machine get ripped to shreds.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it
Kind of
must
the purpose
feel
of the United States. Oh, sorry.
What do you mean?
That this whole United States revolution away from the machine of the British Empire. I mean, the whole point is ripping that thing to shreds and creating a new system that's way better. American republicanism. That's the whole ethos of the United States was to rip the machine to shreds.
Right.
That machine that was stomping on the neck of George Washington and his buddies.
So we do have another massive breaking story. In fact, it is so breaking, it is a Twitter thread that has not yet been written up, but this is the censorship industrial complex report being released by the GOP. Rep. Jim Jordan says, bombshell report, hundreds of secret ports show how DHS, CISA, the GEC, State Department, and Stanford, and others worked together to censor Americans before the 2020 election, including true information, jokes, and opinions. The federal government disinformation experts at universities, big tech, and others work together through the Election Integrity Partnership to monitor and censor American speech. Let me just pause right there, and I'll give you a personal example. That Election Integrity Project, or whatever it's called, claimed that I, Tim Pool, was one of the largest super spreaders of election misinformation.
You're a super spreader?
Now, here's the thing. That actually was shocking to me because I have, since the election, maintained Trump lost to Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. Often saying that the issue was ballot harvesting and things that they put out the Time magazine article. So why would they claim I was spreading misinformation when you've got it's because they want to attack influence. Right. And so long as I was reporting on, say, Texas v. Pennsylvania or instances that needed to be adjudicated, it wasn't that I was spreading misinformation. All of my sources, NewsGuard certified. It was that they could not allow there to be a narrative that there were questions that needed to be answered by courts. So they lie, claim I spread misinformation, don't say what misinformation that is, therefore it makes it impossible to sue them. And when the media reports it, you can't sue the media for reporting what a university said. But let's read more. Jim Jordan says, according to one EIP member, it was created at the request of CISA. The head of the EIP also stated that EIP was created after working on some monitoring ideas with CISA. EIP stakeholders, including the federal government, would submit misinformation reports. The EIP would analyze the report and find similar content across platforms. It would then submit the report to big tech, often with a recommendation on how to censor. Ladies and gentlemen, what we are seeing, what we have long speculated and gotten various reports hinting at or confirming portions of, is now the overt and direct GOP government congressional confirmation. The U.S. government intelligence agencies were using third parties through universities to censor people who supported Donald Trump.
Yeah, and they use the word stakeholders too, which just immediately makes me think of Klaus Schwab, who's like, the future isn't stockholders, it's stakeholders. It's like the whole Great Reset narrative is just either intentionally or accidentally seeping into even the writing.
Where do they use stakeholder in reference to what?
The Great Reset is like the future, the Industrial Fourth Revolution is.
Wow.
When he quoted it in the thread somewhere where he said the word stakeholders. And something like
We
the
can
U.S.
see,
government other stakeholders.
They targeted politicians, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Governor Mike
Babylon Bee's
Huckabee.
on there.
Yeah, Candace Owens, Jack Posobiec, Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson, Tom Fitton. Yeah,
I always
the
hate it
Babylon
when
Bee.
I'm not on these lists.
I know. They put it in my Wikipedia page that I'm a super spreader based on the EAP, and Jim Jordan didn't even give me an honorable mention. Come on, Jim.
We got to bring him on the show.
I met him once
He's gotta
for 15
pay for
minutes.
his.
No, they also
Jim.
say Michelle Malkin, Dave Rubin, James O'Keefe. It's absolutely insane.
But who isn't on the list is even more telling.
Right. Here's some examples. Here's one. It's a tweet from Newt Gingrich saying Pennsylvania Democrats are methodically. Why can't I say that word? Changing the rules, because I want to say methodologically, but then I keep going back.
You made
and
it too complicated.
Methodically. Changing the rules so they can steal an election. It is amazing, open, dishonest, ruthless, and will, I can't read what it says, unless the state is flooded with law
And that was
enforcement.
before the election, too. So he's not even making a false claim about how who won the election.
And it's an opinion. It's an opinion.
No
they
opinions for Newt
censored it.
Gingrich. I mean, that's the thing, though. They will pick all kinds of people that they don't want talking. At the same time,
Here's a joke they removed.
no comedy either,
Wow.
you know?
He said, Mike Huckabee said, stood in the rain for an hour to early vote today. When I got home, I filled in my stack of mail-in ballots and then voted the ballots of my deceased parents and grandparents. They vote just like me. He's making a joke. That's absolutely
But no,
amazing.
he really did that.
Who did we miss? Did you have a social media post that was targeted by the EIP? It's clear why Stanford tried to only produce these after the judiciary GOP and weaponization threatened contempt. Yes, I will absolutely be reaching out to my representatives about how I can assist for if there is any action being taken based on the people who are named. I absolutely will throw my name in.
Let's get Jim Jordan on the show. Cassandra, make it happen. I love that guy personally, and I think this is very prescient.
Absolutely.
But also, what
this is-
happens? That's my thing. Like, I think this is great information to come out, and then what? That's what I worry about with all of these. We had an investigation, we uncovered this stuff. Anyways, now that we've told you, that's the end of it.
Well, now what you do is you build censorship-resistant systems, protocols, things like Noster, however you want to pronounce it. I did an interview with Bill Ottman today, CEO and founder of Minds, talking about censorship resistance and things like that. Briar, mesh networking, things that can't be censored. You can always censor them locally, like you can blacklist them from appearing on your part of the network, but you can't make it go away.
Well, the crazy thing too is just like we were talking about earlier, a lot of the stuff that's coming out now is stuff that was already publicly known. Like if you did a little bit of research years ago, you could find details about the Hunter Biden laptop, what was on it. There's BidenLaptopEmails.com where you can search based on keyword and find stuff. Like the public was able to access the information that while Joe Biden was vice president, $23.7 million went to MetaBiota, and Rosemont Seneca Partners was invested in MetaBiota, so those returns would have gone back to Joe Biden's pocket. And so that information's already been public for years, and now we're just seeing these committees just admit that it's real, admit that the laptop's real, admit that this evidence is real. I think that it's just telling how screwed up our system is when it's not about whether or not people have access to the truth, but it's about who admits the truth is true.
In March of 2021, EIP put out a report a report by The Guardian reported on it, saying 15 of the top 21 offenders were verified, including Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., James O'Keefe, Tim Pool, Elijah Riot, and Sidney Powell. All 21 of the top accounts for misinformation leaned right-wing, the study showed. I never put out misinformation, and that's why, and everyone knows this, all of my sources always are certified by NewsGuard. I think NewsGuard is biased. I think they have posted incredibly wrong information about Timcast.com. They did this dirty trick where they claimed that they emailed us, and because we didn't respond, they downgraded us again, even though we checked, they didn't.
How are you right-wing, though? I don't think of you as like a right-winger.
Well, it's lies, but here's my point. If I'm going to use their standard for what's true and they call me misinformation, that's exactly the point. So there was a really interesting story pertaining to COVID and lab leak where they wrote, I think they wrote it in our, NewsGuard wrote it in our report or someone else's. I can't remember which one. And they said that this is I think it was ours. They said it is incorrect. It was something about like Ukraine labs or something like that. It's not true. This was never revealed. And then I showed them the New York Post and the Daily Mail, NewsGuard certified sources confirming what they claimed was false. I said, now hold on. You say this story about COVID lab leak is false, but you certified Daily Mail and the New York Post as factual, and they claim both of these that it's true. So who do I trust? The random employee telling me I'm wrong or your own certified news sources? Right. And they were like, oops. If Stanford is going to come out and accuse me of wrongdoing despite that, it shows you that it's political, it is fake, and they're simply trying to steal an election.
Yeah. I mean, not to bring up the student loan crisis, but all universities are basically dependent on federal funding. And so that means that they are an arm of the federal government to a certain extent. Yeah. They want to make the federal government happy, and so they'll play ball with them in whatever way possible. I mean, the relationship is obvious, and yet we pretended like this wasn't going to happen. I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, what did you say about the student loan crisis? That they're
I
buying
just mean,
people off by paying it?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a college, right, and you know that you can charge whatever you want, as long as you make the person take out student loans, which are guaranteed by the federal government because you can't declare bankruptcy on them, and they will give them to whoever they think needs them.
Then you are
getting federal
bidding.
Money under this idea of like, oh, we're bringing in students. But
Not to mention the direct funding that they just give too.
Yeah.
So you're ineligible for your funding as a university if you don't enforce our Title IX regulations, which don't allow the defendant to face his victim if he's accused of sexual assault on campus and things like that. So you see these kids getting kicked out of college and stuff for false accusations of sexual assault. It's not even a criminal court. It's just a college court that has to do what Title IX says. Otherwise, they're not eligible for federal funding for the university. So you see a lot of atrocities happen on college campuses related to the fact that they're so vulnerable and so dependent on the federal government's funding. And I think we have the same problem at the state level. Like, we wouldn't see a civil war from a state unless things got way more extreme than they even got in 1862, in my opinion, because all the states are so financially dependent on federal aid for things like roads and infrastructure. It's like they give us so much money, we would never rebel against them because all of a sudden that's cut off at a state level. It'd have to be the people that would stand up. It's never going to be a state government.
You know, I have to wonder with the release of this report coming from official government sources, that has to grant every single one of us standing in a lawsuit against the government and some kind of restitution for this. I mean, they were attacking our businesses, they were attacking our character, and they were lying.
Well, and especially in this business, your credibility is extremely important. And for them to say you're a super spreader of misinformation based on nothing from Stanford University, that's a direct attack on your livelihood. But again, I stand by. As important as I think this report is, I think it's good, even if we all kind of knew this was happening anyways, to get the truth out there. What are the consequences that anyone involved in this faces? Realistically, what can we expect going forward?
Well, one of the things I was thinking is that we no longer have public colleges and make them all private and not allowed to take government money.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, we should stop giving out student loans. That makes
But
that's because
that made college expensive too. All the student loans. It's like, oh, there's this big customer that just came to town.
You can charge whatever you want. Also, Joe Biden is on the campaign trail saying, I'm going to forgive student loan debt. Or you could just stop giving out student loans.
Right.
This broken system that put hundreds of millions of Americans into debt, we are just continuing to say we're going to do, even though on the other hand, we're saying we're going to forgive student loans. It doesn't make any sense. If the system is broken, stop doing it.
How integrated is the student loan? What is it? Fannie Mae, Freddie? Are those the
do like a FAFSA application, right? Is that what it was when you go to college? And then they tell you whether you're eligible or not, and then they give you all the cash. And as long as you're a student, you don't have to start paying it back. And even if you don't pay it back, I don't think they can arrest you for it. So there's a lot of people that go and they just never make payments. It wrecks your credit, but
that's
if you
where
just
we're at
refuse
right
to pay it back. That's probably why they're just forgiving it, because they know they're not going to get it
and
anyway.
It doesn't incentivize colleges to actually do anything to make college affordable, right?
All the prices went way up.
The expectation is that you take out a student loan, a government-backed loan, but it's not that they accommodate you in any way. I mean, that's why it's interesting to see, like University of Phoenix or online programs that are saying like, we're trying to give you an option here that is affordable, because ultimately
Isn't that where Shaq went? University of Phoenix got his doctorate.
Probably.
Dr.
And he's got
Shaq.
Tons of money.
Dr.
But
O'Neill in the house.
it's a system that the federal government ultimately benefits from because they say you should go to college. College is so important.
Right.
Also take
They
our
were
money.
smart, though. They would only offer it for targeted fields. They'd be like, all right, our competitors are doing this, so we need more engineers. But how do we incentivize people to be engineers? Oh, we give them way more, or we only give money to people who are going to major in this thing or graduate with this thing, and you're only eligible for your interest rate's way higher if you don't graduate, and if you graduate, it goes down. There's ways you can manipulate how you give people money to get them to do what you want, but they're just blanketing it.
Well, we know that there are worker shortages in certain fields, right? It's not an immediate solution. They have to go through training. It'll be 4 or 5 year delay. On the other hand, you would get qualified people going into that. There are enough students entering college who say, I don't really know what I want to do. That if you said, but I'll give you a scholarship.
Yeah, I'm going to loan you money for a business you don't know you want to start yet.
It doesn't make any sense. If I was saying, oh, there's a nursing shortage, right? Or there's I don't know what, is specific types of someone who works with, elderly people. And I said,
that's
you
a good one.
You go to college, right? Boomers are get real old. If you go to college for this thing, I will give you the money for it. You have to graduate with this degree and go into that field. That would make way more sense to me than the government saying, no worries. You may
English literature, you got it.
Yeah, and I did get a degree in that. I'm just kidding. That's the thing. It doesn't make sense. And ultimately, I don't understand why the federal government logically would be supporting this unless they know ultimately they're able to pull strings and have universities back sort of nefarious schemes that they have contrived to pull off against the American people.
If I had not been able to get a loan for theater or for whatever I did like communications and journalism and then theater, but I could have got a loan for like a math degree, I would have got a math degree because I didn't have the money. I couldn't have gone to college without a loan.
Or what if they didn't give you a loan for anything and you just went and got a job? You might be working construction.
I would have just started doing theater, local theater, went up to Cleveland, done theater in Cleveland. That's kind of what I was doing anyway.
The best part of my day would be that 30 seconds between the car and your front door. Good Will Hunting, when I knock and you're not there.
Oh, because he wants him to go off and do something else.
Great movie, though.
You shouldn't be a construction worker. You should be doing exactly what you're doing. Beautiful talent right here.
Let's jump to this story, ladies and gentlemen. We got the official word from CBS News. Trump would win a rematch against Biden if the election was held right now, CBS News poll says. And I think it's not just the CBS News poll. I think there's a bunch of other polls showing this. Here you go from Timcast.com. Trump leads Biden in 5 out of 6 key battleground states, new poll finds. The polling results for registered voters in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania show Biden losing to Trump by margins of 4 to 10 points. Holy crap. And this is coming from the New York Times, so I think this is a different poll. Across 6 battlegrounds, all of which Mr. Biden carried in 2020, the president trails by an average of 48 to 44%, the Times reported. The results show significant discontent with Biden and his policy over the past 3 years. Across both genders and all ages, races, education levels, and income brackets, a majority of respondents said that Biden's policies have hurt them personally. I mean, you were just talking to us about somebody who said they voted for Biden and that he sucks.
Yeah, I was at a restaurant and the waitress asked me about my Alex Jones was right shirt that I'm wearing. And then we started talking about politics and she said, I voted for Biden, but I think he's terrible. I'm not going to vote for him again. She didn't say she was going to vote for Trump, mind you.
Right.
But that's the first time in my life I've really experienced just like a stranger saying they regret who they vote for. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before, and I haven't been alive through that many presidential election cycles, but I really do think it's not just a right-wing talking point to say that the people who voted for Biden are disappointed. I think that that's actually the truth.
And this is why Biden ran. They needed a sacrificial goat.
A corporeal form.
A corporeal form of some sort.
They just needed a body.
Knowing that they were going to cause a bunch of problems. Trump made America better. Whether or not he made it great again is entirely up to your opinion. But the economy was a booming. COVID happened. I'm not going to blame Trump or Biden for COVID having happened, but we can certainly criticize them over their policies. But things were going really, really well under Trump, despite the fact that they strapped some heavy Russiagate weights to his legs and were trying to pin him down.
Nobody got in trouble for that either, really.
Right. But things were great in 2019. The best numbers of our lives. Jim Cramer, man, that guy's wrong about everything, but he sure nailed that one.
Nah. It was everything was inflating, like rapidly inflating, so it looked good on paper, but we were headed towards a cliff.
That is not what I'm talking about.
Happened after the pandemic, though.
Making an argument that on the books things were bad is different from saying the average person was enjoying record low unemployment, their wages were going up, The economy was in full motion. People were going to the store.
My business was booming.
Business was booming for everybody. The local contractors we had in Jersey were like, man, this has been the best year of my life. Yeah. I went to the furniture store to buy the first equipment, the first table for Timcast IRL. Aww. And the lady was like, she was so happy when I bought everything. She was like, this has been the best year for me. Yeah. No question.
I paid off all my debt 2019.
And what happens then? They vote for Biden and everything gets worse and people are longing for 2019 again.
Well, we should ask Ron Paul how great the economy was in 2019 before we decide.
I was going to say the Biden campaign is aware that they're in trouble. They put out a memo last Thursday saying we're expecting, a tight race, but we'll be able to defeat whoever comes out of I think they said MAGA extremist race. So they think it's going to be Trump too. Mm-hmm. But they are openly warning their own people that this is going to be close. I mean, they are not even able to fake it amongst themselves that they have this in the bag. And I think that really has to speak to people's experience with Biden in office, right? I'm not an economic expert. I can't tell you exactly who did what that caused all the problems. I do know that under Biden, gas has gone up and it's extremely expensive, and
which means that everything goes up at the stores because the cost of shipping's higher. So groceries go way up because of the gas prices.
Someone chatted this, and a McDouble at McDonald's is $3.30.
Big Mac for $18 was in the news this week.
Right, I don't eat at McDonald's. The last time I ate at McDonald's, a McChicken and a McDouble were $1.
You got to wear a tuxedo to go in now. They have a dress code.
Wow.
Is that real that a Big Mac? You're joking, right?
It's $18 in some markets. They vary the price.
Whoa.
So our local McDonald's, it's $10.19 for a Big Mac meal.
What?
And the McDouble is $3.30 and the McChicken is $3.30.
There was a video I saw on Instagram this week of a guy buying groceries at Whole Foods, and he was like, when I bought this in 2019, it cost me $72. When I bought the same exact things, in I don't remember how many years before, it cost me around $62. And then he went in and bought all the exact thing. He's showing the receipt, and it was like $115. I mean, it's just obvious how quickly things are climbing. And the thing is, the basic American voter can't say, oh, well, this policy or this bill. They can say, for the past 3 years under Joe Biden, despite being promised that things would get better, despite being promised student loan debt forgiveness, despite being promised this, that, and the other, all I know is that he blames Trump, but things are worse under him. And that's what's going to speak to them when they go to the polls.
Well, what we need to do is improve our fuel source and use hydrogen. Whoever wants to win the presidency should hire me, and I will make that happen. I don't even want any money.
Energy Secretary Ian Crossland.
I don't care about the money. I just want to make it happen because it's the fuel costs that are making this go out of control. It all stems from the fuel cost. Russia shutting down the Ukrainian pipeline.
That is a component of it.
Huge.
But mass spending and the billions of dollars going to foreign wars. What basically happens is when the U.S. government gives your money away, they are both simultaneously taking your taxes and spending it, but also inflating the cost of goods by stripping resources away. They're ripping your buying power from your savings.
And I'm confirming customer calls out McDonald's pricing after being charged $18 for a Big Mac meal. The headline says just for a big, it was for the full meal. It's from yahoo.com. And I think New York Post also reported on it. $18. It's in Connecticut for a Big Mac
ladies and gentlemen,
this is native land, guys.
This is the apocalypse for Joe Biden. Because I tell you this, McDonald's was supposed to be, you walk in, you grab your garbage food, you walk out. You're drunk after going to the bar and your buddies are like, let's get some, McDoubles or whatever. But if you're walking in and you're like, oh man, I want the McDonald's fries and a Big Mac, and they're like, that'll be $20. So you're like, wait, what? Does somebody want to split it with me? No, I guess not. They're going to walk out and be like, thanks, Joe Biden.
Yeah. That's not McDonald's fault.
This is what I can't remember his name, but the CEO of Costco sort of won a lot of fans because he said, you will not raise the price of our hot dogs.
Yes, even if it costs us money.
Even if it costs us money, because people, number one, appreciate that. But then also there are people who legitimately want to come in there and be like, we're going to get some food after trying to save money on our groceries. It is something they are doing out of loyalty to the public. I mean, that is one of the stories that I remember coming out of COVID the most, which is that there were CEOs who were like, I'm going to forego my salary for the year to keep our waitresses employed.
But it's also probably more simple. It's much more simple than that. The Costco said, hey, the cost of hot dogs is going up, so we got to raise the prices. And the other guy probably said, people come to Costco knowing they're going to get $1 hot dog and a pretzel.
It's an investment.
And they're going to then shop at our store.
And they also have to
if you raise that price, you will lose
There
customers.
are some gas stations that lose money on the gas that they sell just because they want people to come in and buy a pack of cigarettes and buy snacks and stuff like that.
Reese's.
And I'm sure with Costco too, if you raise the hot dogs, everyone's going to be like, well, is it even worth being a member here? Everything is going up. The hot dogs tell us that everything is, you are saving money when you go there, no matter what happens.
Trump needs to come out and start complaining about the cost of a Big Mac.
and
Yes,
oil.
that's a good idea.
It is. I mean, because you're going to be look.
Big Macs will be $11.
when you come out and you say the stock market is doing really really great, people are like, I don't know what that means to me. Regular Americans are not in the stock market. When you go out and say your price of gas, they know that. But what are they feeling right now? You see, Biden drains the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to try and keep prices low to force a market shift. But you can't do nothing about that Big Mac. Biden can't release the Big Macs from the Strategic Reserve to keep the Big Mac prices down. And regular Americans don't have time to cook, want to stop on the way to work, grab a Big Mac, or the way home from work.
Traditionally, you think about it as the cheapest fast food option too.
Exactly.
So this is definitely targeting a blue collar, sort of trying to save money.
I need a study right now on the price increase across everything, because I feel like Taco Bell is actually going to get the best deal. I feel like they are probably.
Well, we've been living Moss, and I've not noticed. Let me check out our local Taco Bell and see what our prices are. I mean, it was definitely like up compared to, because I haven't eaten before this past like month. We did not eat any Taco Bell in a really long time.
Tell me that it's not more than $1.49 for a hard taco.
Dude, I'm
gonna cry.
I always get the
Bro, you're
the
gonna
party
cry.
pack. It's like 10
You're gonna cry, bro.
combo you want.
Man, they used to be 49 cents. They'd be like 79 cents, but then they'd go down to 49 on like a Tuesday.
When the like meat comes out of the
we did
tube
like
and
10 hard
tacos, too,
tacos
isn't
at a
it? Tube
time.
meat.
Yeah, Taco Bell's up there now too, man. You're gonna cry. Ian.
Well, hydrogen fuel can actually be transported through the methane system, through the natural gas system. So it's like the system's already in place to deliver it, according to James Tour.
this is crazy. What is it?
Taco Bell prices?
A nacho cheese Dorito taco is $3.65. I'm sorry, but a McDouble's better deal than that.
Kellen
Cheesy
Leeson.
Fiesta potatoes are
There
$3.
is some
$3.
economists who can do a study on me, like what is the best value fast food meal
Yeah.
out there. If this already exists, someone could send that to me. That'd be really cool.
Kellen Leeson coming in through the ether saying Chick-fil-A breakfast is pretty cheap, delicious too. I can't confirm or
Okay,
deny.
that's the thing. I believe it's delicious, but I need to see a study. I need some analysis
Yeah, we're gonna
done.
need deep
Right.
facts.
This
Somebody
isn't an
that's
opinion
NewsGuard
thing. 'Cause
certified.
that's the thing. If you want it, you'll probably buy it anyways, but you will pay in other ways.
We got to get Trump talking about hydrogen.
Serge is dying over here.
If Hump starts being hydrogen fuel, we're retrofitting the economy. Graphene, we're retrofitting. It doesn't even matter if he wins. If we can get Trump talking about it nonstop and excited, it's going to excite a bunch of other politicians to start talking about it just to keep up.
So those were delivery prices, which are way higher. But
Inflated, yeah.
no, a nacho cheese taco is $3 directly from the store, and a crunchy taco is $1.80.
Oh, it's over 159. That was my fear. 149, 159,
I don't
180
feel like I
for
remember
a hard
anything
taco.
being that cheap. I feel like I just didn't grow up.
I
in
remember
that
when the
era.
dollar menu was $1. I remember when you get a McChicken for 99 cents.
99 cents. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
It was
that
like-
I feel
15
like
years ago.
Mid 90s is
dollar-
when I was at it.
I feel like dollar menu is like a euphemism, like close
No,
to
it
a
was a
dollar.
dollar
It's
menu.
like the
Menu.
dollar
It was like the
general
dollar store, yeah.
Like,
gonna be-
it's like actually everything's $5.
It's gonna be funny
It
when
used to be called the dime store.
Trump's gonna be on a debate with Biden. He's gonna
Not
be
my
like, the
lifetime.
cheesy gordita crunch is $5.
It was $3.29 when I
It
was
was
president.
$3.29 in 2019. Joe Biden.
The price is down. We got to get him. We got to get an interview with that guy. Have the feelers gone out, Cassandra? We got to do this now.
We just need to
There's no
ask
time to
him.
wait. In fact, there is no time. Time is not a real thing. It's a concept. Motion is everything, and we're
Every
moving.
time we talk to, we have people on the show who are like either working directly for Trump, they're always like, yes, of course. Just like, let us know. And we're like, yeah, okay. And then like, I don't know.
They just had that big party at Mar-a-Lago. Did you go, Chase?
No, I wasn't invited.
It was like for Police
State.
State.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Dinesh.
Yeah, Dinesh's new documentary.
We had him on InfoWars talking about that. Sounds really good. It looks really good.
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing something with him, with Dinesh soon.
Cool.
I don't want to say too much until I know if it's confirmed, but is it confirmed? Serge is shaking his head yes. Oh, okay. All right. Dinesh is coming on at some point.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
We're going to DC for a screening, and then we're going to do a show. So that'll be really cool.
He was fun to have on the Culture War.
He's great. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, he's real, like kind of simple, like an easygoing guy. I mean, he's super brilliant, complex thinker, but like just a simple,
Right.
normal dude to talk to one-on-one.
Very accessible.
Okay, so we're gonna get Trump involved and make him talk about hydrogen. No, he's gonna make himself talk about hydrogen.
I just can't imagine being Joe Biden's campaign right now. Like, he's not going to be able to come out there and say, I got ice cream scoops at my beach in Delaware. It cost me $50. Don't worry, Americans.
Speaking of
No,
Biden.
listen. Here's a story from Politico. Fresh revelations contradict Joe Biden's sweeping denials on Hunter. The corporate press is coming out against Joe Biden. We know what's going to
They're
happen.
going to replace him.
Donald Trump is going to come out and say that Taco Bell is too expensive and Big Macs are $18, and then the Democrats are going to get rid of Joe Biden, and this is how they do it.
Yep.
Do you think that there's gonna be like a terrorist attack here in the United States within the next 12 months?
Yes, but I don't
and
know.
It'll be like Hamas related or Hamas inspired as an excuse to both get us into World War III and get Joe Biden out for his border policy, so they can just replace him at the last second.
Based on the reporting we've seen from a very simple assessment, if you trust the government, which I don't know why you would, but assuming you did, they're telling you that there is a risk of terror happening in this next year. If you are pessimistic Politico, you're probably like, oh yeah. I mean, the border's been ripped to shreds. They're capturing people in the terror watch list down there. So yes, we're at great risk. The probability is decent. Now, as for if it connects to Joe Biden in World War III, I don't know about that. But I do not see Joe Biden being the nominee for the Democratic Party.
I don't either.
How they get rid of him?
They get him out, yeah.
This is not the best way to do it. Accusing Joe Biden of corruption, that's going to lead to a Trump victory, even if you bring in Newsom. But if Joe Biden has some kind of like medical episode and Gavin Newsom runs on a stage and saves his life, now Gavin Newsom's the front runner, and that's a clean exit for Joe Biden.
I think the clean exit is ideal for both parties. This was mutual. The fact that it's so many Hunter revelations makes me think that the Biden camp is resisting, and they're going to go kicking and screaming, so they have to destroy him because he won't go quietly. And so they're saying
it would just be to pardon him for everything, though. Then they would stop investigating because it would be moot.
No, the issue is the deep state goes to, I guess the theory is the deep state would go to Joe Biden and say, hey, we'd like you to bow out, not run for second term, and we're going to bring in Newsom. And Joe Biden says, nah, I can do it, man. Come on. I'm good for it. And they're like, Joe, we're telling you, we're not going to let you do this. And he goes, you can't stop me. And so they're like, we're going to have to forcefully get this guy removed.
That's how I felt the first couple of years that they were asking him, like, do you think you're going to run? And he was like, yeah, for sure. And then Karine Jean-Pierre or whoever's in maybe Jean-Pierre would be like, oh, they're talking about it. They're thinking about it. Like there was obviously some sort of disagreement internally. And yet Biden is still announced, via video that he was going to run again. And that's when you saw an increase in the pressure on Hunter Biden. I mean, the fact that the mainstream media is now willing to talk about it is like this very bitter pill because ultimately it means they don't actually care about this at all. They care about something else, and we'll find out about it in 6 months.
I think he's going to exit the presidential race like he exited Afghanistan in a humiliating surrender.
Well, he will have to pardon his kid first. That'll be like the sign that you know that it's over is when you hear that Hunter's getting pardoned, and then like in a week you're going to hear that he's not running.
I don't think he's 100,000 years old anyways, but he couldn't run again if he pardoned his own kid.
He was born like 3 years after the air conditioning was invented for the automobile.
There was some study that was like he was born closer to the civil. I can't remember what it was. I don't want to misquote it, but like
closer to the Civil War than today.
He was old enough he was potty trained by the time Hitler died, so he's old enough to remember when Hitler was still on the radio.
He was born in 42. Wow.
Yeah.
November 20th. Hey, his birthday's coming up.
I mean, and that I feel like we should be honest. Obviously, Trump is older too, but he doesn't slur and shuffle the way Joe Biden does.
Yeah, it's cellular age. He's way younger.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, this.
It's not true anymore. It was true a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
Because he was born 77 years after the end of the Civil War. So when he was 76, he was born closer. Or wait, no. It's actually true now.
I mean, it would always be true, right? I mean, it would always be true,
right?
Once it becomes true.
Right. So no, I was wrong. No, it is true now.
Wow.
It was 77 years from the Civil War, and he's, what is he,
78.
78? Yeah.
Oh, no, he took office at the age of 78.
Yeah.
Right. So that, you were right. I was wrong. No, it is true now.
Thank you for admitting. No, I'm just kidding.
He was born closer to the Civil War than to today.
Right.
Than like from his birth to today.
This is just how time works, but then to be like, and this is the guy leading our country. This is the guy who can't remember anything.
There should definitely be a cap.
Downstairs.
Like if you have to be at least 35, you should have to be not over 65 or 75.
Yeah.
It was honestly one of Mitt Romney's best political moments when he announced he was going to retire rather than continue 6 terms, because he was like, if I run again, I will be in my 80s, and that's too old. And that's not a terrible point. Again, I'm not saying that Trump should run. I'm not saying that everyone who's in their 80s is in the position Joe Biden is in, but we can't say that we're like this young, spry country. There was a reason that JFK had such an influence on politics, right? That he was young, he had these kids, a beautiful wife, whatever else.
Well, Trump is spry.
Well, and this was one of the appeals for DeSantis in the beginning. People were comparing him, to this young, he's got young children, whatever else, got a young wife. There was sort of this idea that it was sort of a breath of fresh air. This was before I think Trump announced. Obviously, there's more contention now. I'm not trying to weigh in on that.
Then he
got him on his heels.
But then Biden, But then, not Biden, then DeSantis showed up to school wearing high heels, and everyone went, hey, look, new kid's wearing high heels.
Okay.
And he went, shut up. No, I'm not.
Wait, I wanted to bring this up. I was thinking about this before the show. So, he's in Iowa right now, and he's doing this, rally with Kim Reynolds, and there's a picture of him. So it's Casey, Ron DeSantis, and then the governor of Iowa and her husband. And Casey Anthony is wearing sneakers. And I then tried to pull a photo of her in heels, and they are weirdly always the same height difference, even when she's in heels and in sneakers.
There's a meme photo showing Ron DeSantis walking on the beach barefoot with his wife, and he's got the same height advantage. Then there's a photo of her wearing high heels, and he has the same height advantage.
It doesn't make sense. Like, I just used some science to figure this out. There was like a moment I was sitting in my office comparing pictures of them in different shoes, and I feel like this was an easy catch. Either she needs to always be in heels, we maintain this height difference, or she can never wear sneakers.
I don't think
again.
the problem is that he's short, though. Like, I think he should have just leaned into it. Like, hey, you know, statistics show that if you're perceived as short, it's a disadvantage. So I just try to, you know, fit the bill. Like, when you see him debate on podiums, they're
someone
always
super chatted that when Patrick Bet David questioned him on the high heels and said, how tall are you? He should have went, well, I identify as 6'2", and then everyone would have laughed, and that would have been the smooth
that's a good
deflection.
idea.
So he picked the fake
Instead, he was like, what are you
5'11".
talking about? I'm not wearing high heels. It just boots I butt off the rack like every other normal person does. I am human.
Yeah, he even said he
Mark Zuckerberg.
hadn't seen the meme, which is like, yo, it'd been out
Definitely
for a week.
lie. Or his team was too scared to show him.
What did he say? It's no time for foot fetishes.
Is that what
He's got,
even that
yeah,
funny.
and some interviewer.
Well, he lost the foot vote.
That's a
now,
very
all the
controversial opinion to take, man.
There's a bunch of guys on WikiFeet being like, Ron's lost my vote.
It says Casey DeSantis is 5'5" or 5'9", depending on the source.
Wow.
Maybe she should come on the show because I'm 5'9", so we could
This
just
is why he
stand
won't.
next to
This
each
is
other
why he
really
won't come on the show, because we're gonna be like, take the boots off. We have a fine carpet.
no
floor.
shoes
We have an
policy
Asian
in this
household
house.
here. You
Literally,
cannot
I'm
have
wearing
shoes.
socks right now, just so you know I don't have shoes on.
We should implement. You don't need to hold your feet up, Ian.
But I already did it.
No, we just have to get that
Transparency,
name
Tim.
from
You know
now
I'm
on.
about it.
Because our carpets, they get cleaned every week, and but to preserve the longevity, no shoes policy. So Ron, please come on the show and no shoes.
I mean, I would love
It
to
would
see
be funny if he took his shoes off and his feet are just shaped like that, like big blocks. Like it's like,
He just has really thick heels
Like an action
himself.
figure.
Did you at every point?
that would be a really funny bit. Actually, he takes the boots off and his feet are just gigantic triangles.
Were you supporting him in any way before at any point?
I always thought that he was a good governor, but I knew that I was going to vote for Trump as soon as they started prosecuting him. So I was sort of somebody that hadn't made a decision yet, but as soon as they really started coming down with the prosecutions, it's like, I'm going to vote for the guy that they hate most.
What do you think about Vivek?
I like Vivek. I had him on my podcast. He's obviously been on InfoWars recently with Alex. I think that Vivek is a very bright, very honest guy that is positioning himself for some other reason than to be president. I think he wants to be in second. Everybody in the Republican side wants to be in second place because if Trump gets deballoted, then it's like there's got to be somebody else, right? And so I think that was kind of the original thing. But what he really seems to be pulling for me is a campaign of awareness, but also he could be easily put in some sort of a cabinet position after. And he's been very smart in that he's been the only candidate on the right who hasn't come out and criticized Trump directly. And you never want to attack a stronger enemy head on. I think the reason DeSantis is losing so badly is because his campaign strategy was to attack a stronger enemy head on. Just come after Trump seething right away. That was very stupid. Vivek has never once insulted Trump. When I asked him, he said that he thought Trump was a great president. He just thinks it's time for somebody else, just very vanilla. And that's why you never see Trump bashing Vivek, but he'll bash all the other candidates, but not Vivek, because Vivek's never been a dick to him.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's very Sun Tzu.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like, despite what Vivek is saying, he's going for the VP or the next cycle
Cabinet
attempt.
or something, yeah.
He'd be a great VP.
He would be, because he's Vivek is sharp as they come.
Yeah.
I watch a bunch of his clips on Instagram and Twitter when he does interviews, and I'm just like, man.
Well, and he had a brilliant strategy. He did like 3 podcasts a day for 6 months. So he comes off sounding so polished like Obama did, but Obama got there because of the focus groups. Vivek got there because he's answered the same questions 1,700 times because he's been done so many appearances. So he's just got the right answer for everything, and he's high IQ, sharp guy. I know he made money from some Soros fund or whatever at one point. I know he's invested in Big Pharma at one point, but I don't think he's sold out to them. I don't believe.
But I don't care. I don't care if someone does, right?
Yeah.
If you meet, like, if David Hogg tomorrow came out and said in tears that he's looking at these statistics and he can't believe how wrong he was, and he wants to dedicate his time to fighting for gun rights, would people be like, no? Some people would, but I'd be like, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
a guy with 1 million followers, and now all of a sudden. So if Vivek did do things you don't like, but now he's saying all the right things, keep encouraging to say
and
and
he
do the
sued
right
WF
things.
and won because didn't they make him a young global leader? And
Yeah.
he's like, I never gave you my approval for that.
And that's the thing. Like, if David Hogg came out and was like, I'm actually for gun rights now, I would say, please show me the gun you have recently purchased, and so I can believe you are actually committed to this cause. I mean, there is one thing to say, oh, I've changed my mind. There's another thing to actually prove and consistently behave as though you have changed your mind.
I would go buy a gun with David Hogg. That'd be a
I
good
would love
documentary.
that as content on YouTube. I feel like that would be really interesting.
Wouldn't you go buy a gun with?
Or not YouTube X or whatever we're into now.
I'd probably, if somebody wanted to go buy a gun and I was thinking about buying a gun, I'd probably do it with them if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greta?
Yeah, for sure. We could talk about gun rights and how they're awesome. The Second Amendment's legit.
It is, quite indeed. Oh, speaking of Second Amendment, the Infringe documentary is officially up tomorrow at 9 a.m. 12
Nice.
hours. That's the
Lauren
countdown.
Southern.
Yeah. And we'll be doing a big old ad campaign promoting it. So let me just say to all of you listening, when you go to timcast.com and you become a member, what do? We commission Lauren Southern and John Dutoit. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah,
I think so.
T-O-I-T. So I'm like, I don't know, is it French? Dutoit. And they do excellent work. And that was a very expensive project with all the travel and all the people and all the scheduling. And then we're also going to be dumping large amounts of money into marketing that documentary all over the place. And it is a documentary explaining the importance. I shouldn't put it that way, but it's about gun rights. It's called Infringe and explains the purpose and the point. It talks a lot about the issue of guns from a very, I would say, pro-gun perspective.
I saw the trailer. Is the trailer's public at this point? I think
There's a couple clips from it already up on youtube.com/Timcast, as well as some trailers. And then we've got 3 different short trailers coming up.
I like the way
this
that
week.
they framed it because they really highlighted the dangers of like mass shootings and gun violence. And then it sounds like then they start to talk about why it's important to protect your rights and defend yourself from that stuff.
It's really simple, actually. A centralized security apparatus does not work. The idea that you can give all of your security to one organization in one location is an absurdity. At the very least, argue 80-20, right? That 20% of the security is handled by the individual and 80% by the apparatus. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying at minimum, the idea that only police will have guns means criminals will have guns because clearly they're in violation of the law. And as the saying goes, when seconds matter, police are minutes away.
Right.
And this is why we experience more. This is why the study showed that in gun-free zones, people are less likely to stop a mass shooter. And everywhere else, excluding gun-free zones, 51% of shootings were stopped by a person legally.
And a lot of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones. Like they happen in places like schools.
I had a dream last night that a group and I went to protect these people, and we got there and they were like, okay, someone's got to stay to protect the kids, the children. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I stayed there, but all I had was a knife and I was just there with the kids. And then this guy came and he had a shotgun. It was like one of those pump action semi-automatic shotguns. And I was like trying to dodge him around the couch, and I ran around the edge and he just shot me in the face. I was like, damn it. And then I was still alive in the dream and I was like, I need a gun. I cannot defend myself and these kids without one.
I heard you can't die in dreams.
I didn't, I've never really
I don't
died.
think that's true.
I think you wake up.
No, I've died in dreams before.
And just been dead?
But like, the dream keeps going in a different way. I've had tons of dreams where I've died.
You die and you're just laying there and like everybody's hanging out?
No. Like I had a dream where there was a nuclear explosion and then everyone died. And then all of a sudden I was still in my dream doing something else. Like, it's like, oh, wow, we all died in a nuclear explosion, but we're still just like in a different building now. I don't know.
How would you know that you died?
So I had a dream where we were in a car and there was like, we saw like an ICBM coming, we're like, and then like a nuke went off. And then it was like a nightmare. It was like a scary feeling. And then there's like a wall of like white light. And then all of a sudden, it's just me and other people. We're in a room and we're like, wow, I can't believe we all died in a nuclear explosion. And then just like...
You were in the lobby of like heaven?
Something like that. I don't know, maybe.
It's like
but
waiting
in
for a minute.
dreams, things don't make sense and you don't realize things are happening. So it's just like it carried on. And then I woke up like, whoa, that was a crazy dream.
I love that relief when you get killed in your dream and you're like, oh, I'm not really dead. This is awesome.
See,
it's
that's
a dream.
So Ian's died in his dream.
Yeah.
I have this dream all the time
Last
where I
night.
need to shoot somebody and I don't have the strength to pull the trigger. You ever had that dream? You're
Interesting.
Or you
yeah,
you
in my
can't
dream,
punch.
I couldn't bring myself to stab
It
the guy because I
drives me
didn't want to
nuts.
get blood all over the place. I'm like, what is
You're
wrong?
worried about being
squeezing the trigger so
in a
hard that my grip
self-defense
holds on.
scenario?
That's not it. It's the idea called punching in a dream.
Yeah.
You can't exert force because of it's something to do with the chemical that paralyzes your body. So you move really slow. You can't run properly, and also something about because of the way like your brain works in dreams, you can't read either. And so when it comes to lucid dreaming, one of the techniques is to try and read. So there's a bunch of things you can do, but you can if you want to just read about one of them is when you read something and it's gibberish, you should realize you're dreaming. There's a bunch
that's a good one.
there's a bunch of other
So
tricks
like
too.
Biden's inaugural speech.
I always notice if you're ever in a dream and you can't get out and you want to get out, close your eyes really tight until you can feel it. And as soon as you feel it, when you open them, you'll be awake. because it's that feeling that wakes you up.
I mean, everybody's different.
Yeah,
When I
it
usually want
works
to wake
for
up,
me.
I just wake up. I don't know. It's like,
Excellent self-discipline, Tim.
yeah, I just wake up. I'm like, oh, wow, I was having a bad dream.
I've had dreams where I think I have woken up, and so I can picture my room and stuff like that, but I am actually still asleep. And I think this is often because I have to set up a lot of alarms, so you're sort of waking up and you're immediately
Right.
falling back to sleep.
The dream where you like get up and take a shower and get dressed and you're like on your way to work and then all of a sudden you
You're
wake up
not.
and you're like, I gotta do it all again.
Turns out none of that is real. It's very frustrating.
I do think it's funny that nightmares are depicted in media as like being attacked by monsters or like chased by a killer, when in reality, nightmares are like you have a dream that you're late for work.
Yeah.
You know, it's like my nightmares are like I woke up at 8:30 and I'm like, oh crap. And I'm like trying to get dressed real fast. And I'm like, anxiety, like I gotta get up there, I gotta record. Oh man. And then I wake up and it's 7 and I'm like,
Brain's just like feeling stressed out. Let's see what happens. I used to have this dream that I would get to the last day or like exams when I was in college and realize that I had forgotten about a class I had signed up for the entire semester.
I had that dream before.
And it was extreme. I always found it
the
very
not graduating
stressful.
dream.
It's not even that I wouldn't graduate. It's just like suddenly you realize you were supposed to be either you would fail this class because you had to go take the exam, but actually you had never taken the class and you didn't realize you had.
It's funny.
not
I had
signed
that
up.
dream like twice a year. I thought I was the only one.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I would get the
Let's-
one where I would be on stage but for the play that I never rehearsed for. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I got all these lines and I don't know any of them. Literally, it's the most embarrassing. Like, let's 10,000 people watching or whatever, 5,000 people.
well, hard segue back to news. We have this tweet. This is a viral video. It's going around. Hammer attack on a painting in the National Gallery in London. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we got to watch it. And there is so much to be said about this video. Here we go. We got two people smashing the glass in a painting.
Did not get the vote by voting. It is time for deeds and not words. It is time to just stop oil.
Politics is failing us. Politics failed women in 1914. If millions will die due to new oil and gas licensing, millions! If we love history, if we love art, and if we love our families, we must just stop oil.
Here's where it gets sad.
pretty cute, but she's
They
not
go
that
and sit
cute,
down. Now wait for the most depressing moment, and it's right there.
Oh, he loves her.
Yeah.
You know, he just joined the movement because he's really
I was gonna
attracted to
say
her.
freaking theater
Oh,
kids in
no.
the wild.
No, she grabs his hand though. Now, I'm sorry. Life is what I tweet. I said, life must be really hard when you're an effing idiot. He says, so there's glass on this painting, and they're not using just hammers. It looks like they're using these emergency hammers that I think have special material for breaking glass.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and they're trying to damage the painting, but I don't think they're able to because these are very, very well-protected paintings. But you see, I'm sorry, my friends. He says millions of people will die because of these gas leases. We must just stop oil. It is very basic and simple, common sense
The irony.
that if you stop producing oil, dozens
Dozens of people will die.
Millions.
Dozens of tens of millions.
Maybe billions.
60 million people
A third
will
world
die
country.
in 3 days.
Wow.
In the United States, in Europe, because oil is used to produce food, to create electricity. Instantly, we talk about this all the time, the diabetics die overnight without refrigeration. Without the production of oil, he would not be wearing a hat. He would not be wearing glasses. He likely wouldn't be wearing those jeans. The
The soles
estimates
of his shoes. Yeah.
The
He
estimates
also
are
wouldn't be getting laid.
the estimate. Well, no, I mean maybe
talking about rubbers,
if they
you know?
got it, that chick would be all about it. But they're both so insane cultists being used for political purposes. They don't even bother Google searching this. It's like, hey guy, what fuel is used to drive the tractor? Is it produced from oil?
Or the bus that brought you here.
Yo, they tried doing electric farm equipment, and it's just like people are like, "Are you nuts? It doesn't work." Electric trucks, they're already having problems with it because maybe we get to the point when we have ubiquitous graphene polymer batteries, and we can recharge an electric vehicle in 30 seconds, like you can refill a gas tank. Maybe, and it's possible. But right now, we use oil for everything. Humans, a large portion of this planet exists simply because oil exists.
Yeah.
You can actually track the oil age and the population boom. All of a sudden, we started discovering oil and uses for it, and then the population skyrockets.
And
then
of course,
then you get the 50s and the petrochemical boom, and we're kind of like
the unabashed burning of oil is not good. If we never stop just burning it all and putting things into it and burning them into the atmosphere, we'd probably all choke and die. But we're not doing that. We're reusing the carbon. So we don't need to stop using it. We need to reuse the carbon, dude.
Alex Epstein wrote an awesome book about this. I don't know if you guys have ever had him on the show. He would be an awesome guest. He wrote a book called Fossil Future. And it was basically making the case that just what you said, more people would die if we actually did these green energy deals and if we did this, because the third world countries are the ones that rely on fossil fuels the most, even though they're not the greatest culprit of pollution, but they rely on it the most because it's the cheapest form of energy. So if you're going to, when we do things internationally, like force third world countries to obey our sort of green standards in exchange for funding and money and stuff, it actually could lead to a catastrophic amount of death for people that rely on things like gas for heat.
I don't know if you could say it's the cheapest. It's the highest energy return. So, a cow is a form of energy. You can use a cow to pull,
Tom.
farming equipment to harvest a field or something like that. But, that's not as efficient as oil. So it's that you get way more energy out of oil. Now, look, there's an issue. If you look at global population, it's very steady. And then right at the turn of the century, 1900s, it skyrockets and just goes exponential. And that's due to oil. We were all of a sudden able to mass produce food much, much more quickly. Everyone became very fat and happy, and people have lots and lots of babies. And so this results in a massive population boom around the world. But now, because the oil went up, people go up. If the oil goes down, the people go down. And so that means if you just stop oil, you're going to kill dozens of millions, tens of millions.
We can all admit this was incredibly lazy. They came up with this fun slogan, just stop oil. They put it on a bunch of T-shirts. They got their little tool to make the glass. I mean, I miss that guy who super glued himself to his Starbucks counter.
Yeah.
Like these
He's
people
still there.
are they brought a friend to film them. Hopefully he is. That was way more
How do they
interesting.
pick the painting? That's my question. They're like, all right, we got to have a strategic
They're like, the
choice.
lighting is really good here. You stand over there and we'll sit here and it'll be great. I mean, I just feel like this had it's not even that passionate of offense. So it's no wonder that they have no idea what they're arguing for, because all they're doing is trying to get clout on social media. What are we looking at? JustStopOil.com. I mean, what are they even arguing?
Who sees that and changes their mind? Like, we just watched it. I
if
feel the same
someone
way.
sees them and it's like, wow, I love these young activists doing something.
I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that Just Stop Oil was funded by a bunch of oil companies indirecely. I'm not kidding.
That's brilliant.
Well, but
psychology.
It's not. I wouldn't even call it brilliant. I call it basic. Yeah. Like if you get a guy, awesome. If you get a guy in a Trump shirt, and he walks around screaming, he's all super drunk and he's screaming, Trump, and then he walks up to a guy who's waving a little flag saying, help us, Joe Biden wants to help us save puppies. And then the Trump guy hits the Biden guy and it's on video. Who does that benefit? It doesn't benefit Trump.
Right.
People are going to be like, oh, wow, those Trump supporters are crazy. This, by any metric to any social media marketing person, they filmed this. Social media marketing 101, if you are the aggressor, you are viewed negatively and benefit the inverse. False flags. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what they're doing is benefiting oil companies. They look unreasonable. They look unhinged. They've been, what you have those people blocking the roads? That's not going to convince, that makes people angry. So all these, I seriously believe oil companies are like, let's indirectly fund these anti-oil NGOs to make people despise the oil protesters.
That makes sense to me. I mean, when I see stuff like this, I think about these pieces of art that if someone really destroyed them, we would lose them forever, right? It's a similar argument we make with like the Confederate monuments, right? Those were a form of art that once destroyed can never come back. And so maybe you feel really passionate about this issue, but this is a very lame protest to me that could potentially destroy something that has nothing to do with anything else. Of course they don't care. They don't care about anything. But if you're a viewer, it doesn't make me want to support their cause.
We got to refocus it onto reusing the waste, the fuel waste. You have fuel. You have three types of fuel. There's hydrogen, carbon, and plutonium. Those are the only things that can function as fuel. The difference between what fuel is means it can be put into a container and moved around, carried around. Everything else like wind turbines, solar panels, they're not types of fuel. They're just types of energy generation. But you need to reuse the fuel waste. So the carbon dioxide, or for plutonium, they've got spent nuclear fuel is what they call it. And I'm actually interviewing a guy tomorrow on my YouTube channel at 2:00 p.m. Eastern who funds companies that are investing in reusing plutonium, spent nuclear fuel, turning them into things like, I don't know if he's going deep into the diamond batteries, nuclear waste diamond batteries, where you put it inside of carbon and it can produce like 10,000 years of electrical charge.
Your phone never needs a charge.
It's
It'll
amazing.
Just always be on. Crazy,
so,
right?
As long as we focus on reusing the waste of fuel, we're going to be okay. We can keep using the fuel.
Ian, can I ask you a question that's off topic? If you had to propose to a girl and buy her an engagement ring, would you make graphene the center stone? Would the whole thing be out of graphene?
Graphene is
I've been thinking about this
is
for a
a
while.
single atomic sheet.
Okay. But how would you incorporate graphene? Because I feel like that's the only material I could see you using. It's such an important part of your advocacy.
I'd get a platinum, gold, silver, probably a platinum, gold, palladium ring, like 3 metal bands with a diamond.
So no graphene at all? I obviously don't
I don't know
what
enough
graphene
if
is.
graphene's safe to have in skin contact for long
okay,
periods of
fair
time.
That was just carbon, dude.
I talked to a chemist before I did that,
Well,
but
then
that's
there's
kind of a cool idea.
graphene shirts or something.
I have one on right now. This is graphene spandex. My pants are actually graphene as well. It's cool. They stay cool in the
second
heat
foot of the episode.
and get hot.
I do want to disclose I did invest in a graphene manufacturer. I fully intend to monetize off of Ian's constant shilling
Was
for
it
graphene.
Universal Matter?
Well, sure.
No. But in all seriousness, when Ian started ranting about graphene, I did buy stock in a graphene company a long time ago, and it's like one of my only stocks that's improved.
I would recommend checking
That's
out
so funny.
universalmatter.com. It's James Tour, one of James Tour's companies where they're flashing the graphene with electricity. They're flashing carbon with electricity and producing graphene with it. And they're mass producing it. So this flash joule heating is the future.
Can graphene be used to make annoying oil protesters stop smashing things and throwing paint on people?
Not even graphene is that powerful.
Unfortunate.
Maybe you could improve the roads. You could actually make a graphene cover to that painting that they couldn't crack through.
Yeah.
thing is,
Every time they hit it, they got electrocuted.
They would just find some other way of being annoyed about something else. Like, this is the personality type. They came with a prepared monologue and someone to film them.
Yeah.
Like,
He
I don't
loved the
even
practice
think they,
sessions, though. That's the saddest thing for that guy about this event was that he doesn't get to rehearse anymore.
Well, the saddest thing about it is that he rehearsed his
Theater
speech,
kids.
but he
play's
didn't
over.
Google one time anything that he was saying.
It could help
No,
them
because he
because
doesn't care about it.
when
Right.
you turn carbon into graphene,
He's trying to get laid.
It like holds it so it doesn't get out into the atmosphere. Like turning carbon into graphene, you don't lose. It's so solid of a material that you don't lose it.
This
into carbon
woman
dioxide or
probably
methane.
went to a meeting. He met her at a bar, and she's like, "Well, I'm going to a Just Stop Oil protest."
He's like, so am I.
Yeah,
You're going
me too. I'll be there. And that's it. That's probably the only reason he's there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this was one of the stories that I liked from last year, which is a lot of the get out the vote efforts were young women who were on, they would set their dating app profiles to whatever city they were trying to get people to register to vote in for their, progressive cause. And they would just like talk to guys and be like, wow, you're so cute. Are you voting? Maybe like it'd be cool if you registered to vote. And here's a little bit about this candidate that I'm supporting.
It's kind of weird. Wasn't it typically the men who would try and court the females by doing a weird dance, but now the women are doing the weird dance to court the males?
On behalf of a politician.
Right.
It's super creepy. I hate it.
Do you think there was some of that going on with the Israel-related protests that we saw a couple days ago in D.C.?
I mean, this goes on with all protests.
Because it seemed like a lot of
everywhere.
college kids and a lot of dudes. I'm like, what is that dude doing there? I'm like, oh, he's probably there for some girl.
Right. It's
class.
like, you ever watch It's Always Sunny?
Yeah, sometimes.
The abortion episode where he's like pretending that he's pro-choice or whatever because he's just trying to get laid. And then he's thinking like they must be easy or whatever. And then what happens? He tells the woman, the pro-life woman, he's pretending he's pro-life. And then when she gets pregnant, he's like, oh, you got to get an abortion. Like, it's never pro-life at all.
I haven't seen that one. That's hysterical.
Yeah, it's one of their super old ones from like 20 years ago.
Yeah, classic.
But this is the thing. I feel like men should just be more like, no, I don't like that. And the girls would eventually, it might not happen as fast, but
Yeah, but look,
they would change their minds and listen to you.
they're targeting weak, pathetic men like
Yeah,
this.
like incels.
I mean, yeah, this guy, like, look, I'll try and be as nice as possible. If you're willing to get a hammer and smash the glass on a painting and then scream in a room of people without one time Googling what you are saying, you are not a high-functioning individual.
True.
He must not be having an easy time of meeting ladies.
Right.
And so when this woman says, why don't you come with me and do this thing? He says, okay. Now, I'm not saying it's absolutely what happened here. I'm just saying this is a common thing. You notice that politically men tend to skew right, women skew left. Men are a little bit down the middle. And in biology, earmuffs for your kids. In biology, it's called the sneaky fucker. That is the actual biologist term for individuals who just try and, they sneak in to get laid. There are the strong males who succeed in courting the women, and then there are the sneaky fuckers.
Like Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
messed
great
up.
scene.
That was a
That's
dark
messed
moment.
up.
I had
I
a
saw
hard
that
time
when I was
watching
like
it.
16. That was crazy.
That movie
Yeah.
was messed up. He rapes the woman,
Yeah.
and then she's like, wow, but I liked it.
Yeah.
What?
Revenge of the Nerds.
You got to watch that movie if you've never
Yep.
seen it.
Yeah.
It's like a
Sent
college
a bad
campus.
message on accident.
Was
I
that
think.
supposed to be that he was the good guy? or
Yeah,
something?
like if you do a good job, she won't think it's rape. that was the theme of that.
So she
It's a
thinks
crazy movie.
he's in a costume. She thinks it's her boyfriend,
Yeah.
and then they do it, and she's like, "Wow, that was great." And he's like, "Ha,
he takes off the mask. All nerds think about is sex.
yeah."
This
So
is a
messed
horrible movie. Why would I watch it?
Well, the movie's actually hilarious. It was just a really bad call to do that scene like that.
Dude, in like, did you guys see Airplane, the movie? I mean, it's girls talking about the young girl that she likes her coffee black, like her men, and she's like 9 or 10 or something. Like, they got away with that stuff in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
No
Well,
cap.
there's
seen a grown
there's
man
a
naked?
movie out right now called what is it called? Totally Killer or something? I don't know. It's on Amazon, and it's Kiernan Shipka, and she plays I think she's a teenager who goes back in time to the 80s. Because there's like a serial killer in the 80s. I don't know, you got to watch it. But it's really funny how they make fun of wokeness. Because all the kids in the 80s are just like, they're just being kids and doing what they want. And she's like getting offended. Someone makes a crude comment and she's like, whoa, there's a guy wearing a shirt that says like federal booty inspector. And she's like, that is problematic. And they're like, what?
Problematic.
Nobody cares, dude. Everybody's totally fine with it.
It would be cool to do skits where we time travel back to the 80s and then the whole cinema is like 80s style movie. And then back to the 70s and it's like disco style. Like
We're making a
Wesley,
90s,
you hear me?
We're making a 90s room.
I love it.
We just bought a 90s sound
Love
system.
the 90s, man.
Yeah,
It's
nice.
got
Crazy about the 90s.
When I think
well,
of
I
the
mean,
90s,
it's a
I
gimmick,
think
but the 90s were the last decade. That's why.
When you think of the 90s, what do you think of?
I like the 80s.
Closing
Probably
time, semisonic.
I would say I probably like the 80s
Encarta?
more than the 90s.
I think of like
in my opinion.
16-bit graphics.
But what we're building is we've got we're gonna have a bunch of vinyl. It's not really a 90s room, but I have almost every Life magazine ever from its inception. I actually have the first copy of Life magazine. It was called something else before it got bought and changed, but it's really amazing. When I was reading a pre-D-Day Life magazine, and it was talking about how the U.S. was stockpiling arms in the U.K. as a defensive precaution. And then, sure enough, like, we know it happened, a couple weeks later. Mm-hmm. The Americans stormed the beaches of Normandy. At the time, they lied and reported, we are helping the UK shore up its defenses as, Hitler advances, blah, blah, blah. So it's really fascinating to read a news article from when, like,
That's disinformation.
During the Watergate scandal, or just a lack of information, or today it's disinformation. You could read a story and it's like, this politician said these things, and then later on they'll go, actually, he said something different. Which one's true?
I got a question for everybody in the chat too. What year was the best in the 90s? What's your favorite year from the 90s?
Windows 98 was a big deal.
That was a good system.
That's a good
95
reference.
changed the game.
Remember playing Oregon
95,
Trail on that thing? And
Windows
trying to hunt, and you have to like...
No, I was on the Mac. I can tell you what my favorite year in the 90s was.
Oregon Trail's on Mac.
My favorite? No, I don't want to spoil it. 1993.
Why?
It's just so much changed in 93 technologically. Like 16-bit graphics, Super
Sega
Nintendo.
Genesis, when did that come out?
91 or 89 even, maybe? 90?
Genesis, I think, might have been 89, actually.
Yeah. It was
Or was that Master System?
Master System was a little bit before.
They made a version
right.
of it that used a compact disc, though. That would
It's like a CD.
93 was like CDs started popping
Yeah.
in 92, 90. Well, it was a little bit before that. 93 was
CDs were
just-
out in the 80s.
Rollerblading.
Yeah, rollerblading was hot.
Yeah.
That was a good
What a
year,
fun
man.
time, the
Oh, a lot of people
90s.
got 90, 98, 96,
97, 96 are always great vintage when you're picking out records. But
97.
97, 96. So if I ever find that in a record, I'm gonna pull it for sure. Yeah.
It was like 91 and 96 were like different realities.
I
You
got
were saying
an idea. Super chat the year of the 90s that you thought was the best.
That's a good idea.
It was $1,995.
You were
That's
saying
right. So if you want 1998 to win, that'll be $1,998.
You were kind of
You know
joking
someone's
almost,
gonna
Tim,
be
that
like, oh, the 1892.
How
you didn't
the-
say which year.
Best year ever was
You were saying,
33
like-
AD, year of our Lord.
before the show started how the 90s were the last decade, and it's like kind of tongue in cheek, but
No, it's
so
not.
much
It's true. What do you
technology
mean?
changed in the 90s, and the internet became so prevalent where like it wasn't about be there 8 o'clock to watch the show, and then maybe you can tape it on your recorder. It's always on the internet now. Everything's
Okay.
always there.
I will
That's
say this.
hyperbolic.
It is not tongue in cheek. The 90s was the last decade. What that means is the 20s, the 10s, the 1900s, the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Each of those has a distinction to them for something specific. The 90s has a distinction to it. The 2000s do not. 2010 does not. 2020s do not.
Yeah, they just felt like an extension of the 90s.
Not
2003 still felt like 90 something.
It's like from 2000.
How long do you think it took for them to understand the vibe of the 80s, though? Like, how long after the 80s did it take before people referred to it as that looks very
like
80s?
98.
Do you think
8
it was?
years.
Do you think it has like more
well,
time
no,
needs
it
to pass
really
before
got
we
popular in
What
like
year did they make-
2012.
That 70s show came out in the late 90s. 20
Was
years.
that late?
Yeah. So maybe we
Imagine
think
if
that
they made a
these
show
decades aren't a
today
decade.
called like That 2005 Show. You'd be like, huh? They'd
'Cause
be,
it's
they'd
still-
be wearing the same thing.
It's still
If
all
you
on the
go to-
internet,
okay,
yeah.
If you go to Hot Topic, they're selling the same products they sold 30 years ago. Nothing has changed. Kids are still buying Nightmare Before Christmas. It hasn't changed. If in the 80s they're wearing leopard print hot pink, hot pants, and they're rollerblading around in circles, and they've got mullets. And then in the 90s, they all have long hair with baggy jeans with ripped knees and flannel shirts. There's a
Right.
clear distinction.
Right.
The style of music in the 80s was very like synthy, and the 90s was very rock and
Right,
grungy.
almost like a back to
The
real.
2000s to now, there's no distinction.
Music got digitized, homogenized, and I wonder if it's because like high fructose corn syrup and opioids stunted everybody
No, it's
in the
'cause of the internet.
90s.
You ever gone back
It is
though
'cause
and
of
like
the internet.
There's no
watch
creativity,
something
like-
a show produced in the early 2000s? So you can like if you watch Lost, some of their choice
can
of
feel
attire is very you can tell it's from a different era.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say here, Claire?
Well, I was going to say, I feel like a lot of it is the dominance of the internet. There's a lack of creativity and a lack of community building. Like parts of the things that we're referencing with the 80s, with the 80s with neon or whatever else, with the hippies in the 70s, and you get like the more pattern, the feathered hair, whatever else. Those were things that people were doing in their social groups that were more widely adopted as they spread by the end of that decade.
And
then
1080?
it changed. And then now that we have put everyone online, and maybe that's why you feel like the 2000s is sort of the end of this, like you can feel distinction there because at that point the internet really took off. It became not only something everyone had in their home, but in their pocket.
All right, we're going to go to Super Chats. So if you haven't already, would you kindly smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, become a member at timcast.com, click join us at timcast.com. The members only uncensored show's coming up in about 25 minutes. But I just want to give a shout out right away to the clever people who successfully super chatted $19.94.
Ooh,
Ha ha ha.
got a 1997
$19.97.
Squatch.
And one person believes the year 4,999 was the best 90s because I'm kidding. He said 1998 was the best. But, well, there you go. That's one way to do it.
Yeah,
I would say if we're going to base the best year off of Super Chats and I scroll all the way back up through all the Super Chats, the year 1999 is the best, whether anyone wanted it to be or not,
gotta
because
party like
that's
it's
just
99.
that's just a generic number you can super chat.
It was digital fidelity hit 1080p, and since then the human brain can't comprehend more. I mean, it can, but it's like it's just become hyper realistic now, and it's never like The Office may as well have been made yesterday. It looks
Well,
the same.
I think we see the changes a lot more gradually too, because before it was like every month there was a magazine that came out, but today we're on TikTok every day. So like different trends, you like it's almost like the frog metaphor, where if you warm the water up slowly, you don't feel it.
Well, what happens is there used to be a handful of channels and a handful of radio stations, and it was a top-down broadcast. So they don't want to invest in 800,000 songs. They just want to find the one good song people like, and so everyone hears the same music. If you go into a bar, you turn on Bohemian Rhapsody, everyone will sing it. But if you put on any modern music, the singing stops because like 3 people might know it and another 27 don't.
It's all niched out.
All right, we'll read some more super chats. We got Derpy Dolphin says, I heard a Pfizer ad in the grocery store today, and I'm not going to read any more of that super chat. Thank you very much. All right, we'll grab some more. There were a few early ones. I know, I believe Clint Torres got the first super chat, but YouTube appears to have removed your super chat and a few others from the beginning. But shout out to Clint Torres for once again saying howdy people and getting the first super chat of the day. He said that he died, but he is back, and then the rest I don't know because it was removed. All right, let's see. What do we have? Sir Rank Zero says, hey, Tim, if you look at the page dated 2/3/23, you can see a sentence bleeding through the page that says, I'm a queer. Also, the photos show that there are multiple books. Notice the different bindings. Interesting,
Yeah, I
interesting.
noticed
So there's actually several different books. And there's also reportedly a video that's not been released.
Yeah.
Interesting. David R. says, Tim, I got married on Saturday. Please shout out my beautiful wife, Krista, watching tonight. Shout out, Krista. Congratulations on being married. Krista R. and David R.
Congratulations, guys. That's awesome.
out.
Awesome.
What do we got?
Hopefully you got married somewhere with foliage because it has been really beautiful this year.
Busta Ruckus says, with the way they hid this manifesto, I'm convinced they are still hiding something about the Vegas shooter targeting a conservative country concert. Perhaps. But I believe, what did they say? He was a gambling, the latest story is that he was a high stakes gambler who was angry that he was being mistreated, even though that he was like high status or whatever. I kind of don't believe that at all. Because
I think it was a gun deal went bad.
Right. That's, and for some reason they started shooting and it was,
Multiple shooters would be explained.
and the fully automatic. Some people think that it was government related, and that's why they're not going to
kill
release
him,
anything.
and they wanted to cover up that it was a gun deal, and so they did a mass shooting. So it looked like him as a patsy.
This guy came in to do a gun deal, and maybe he wasn't even with government. I don't know. And then the guys who came in, the deal went sour, and they started shooting, and they're unloading. Who knows? Who knows? I'm just saying the explanation that he was like a high status player. As someone who is a low status player at these casinos, like I don't have the elite tier or anything, they still treat you very well. Like I don't get it. I've had my problems. Don't get me wrong, but typically they make money off you giving your money away. They try really hard to accommodate you. Like if you go to there and you say like I want a free drink now, they'll be like okay fine, we'll give you a free drink. Like people will roll their eyes at you and be like whatever. Most casinos just give you free drinks.
They want you drunk.
Right.
They want you
It's the
gambling
whole
and
thing,
losing
like,
your money.
the
He's in
better
Vegas and he's
floor
like-
and stuff like that, so you'll spend more time there. They want you to be
They pump
happy.
oxygen in. Is that what you said? They do. They
I think
pump
they all
oxygen
kinds of
into
stuff.
the rooms.
Oxygen, extremely comfortable carpeting.
I mean, if the argument is he wanted to be given like they have secret rooms at all these casinos people don't know about, but like you kind of know about. Maybe he was like, oh, I want the ultra
Didn't they
premium
lock his
unlisted.
brother up too for months later for something they found on his computer?
He had like planes and stuff. But yeah, so little known fact is that they have secret gambling rooms. And you can look them up and try and find them because it's not that they're so secret, but they are secret. If you are somebody who's worth like $100 million,
They want to hide their identity.
Yeah, and you want to gamble like $500,000 in one night, they're going to bring you to a private room with private security guards, and then you're going to play with a bunch of other billionaires and whatever, and no one will know you're even there. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool.
Even super cool rooms. Yeah, they. I know for a fact. I think most people, anybody who plays poker knows this too. They have secret poker rooms where like Hong Kong and Macau billionaires show up and play with like people for like a $2 million buy-in. It's like James Bond-esque. I was talking to a dealer and he's like, yeah, we had a pro. I'm not going to say the pro's name, but a pro came down with a bunch of Chinese billionaires and they were playing like $1 million buy-in game like it was nothing. That's just like
That's
It's
crazy.
like another
secret room is
reality,
secret.
man.
Yeah.
So these strata of humanity existing. Some people
And
just
he was-
live on their yachts and want it all to.
he was saying the ultra wealthy Chinese, like Hong Kong and Macau billionaires, didn't care that they were losing to this poker pro because
They wanted to be playing with the poker pro.
they wanted to be playing with the poker pro. They wanted to play poker because it was fun, and the $1 million meant nothing to them because they were worth so much money. They were just like, oh, I don't care. And the poker pro, who is worth millions, makes his millions by playing against people who want to play with a pro. It's crazy,
It's like
dude.
OnlyFans for poker players.
You know, I gotta tell you, man.
Though, that's true.
The crazy thing about the world in terms of class, and I say this a lot, people don't like hearing this, is that a lot of the class distinction is a choice. And I'm not kidding. There are people I know who are very, very dumb and come from humble upbringing, but just started selling Gucci products, I use it figuratively, to ultra wealthy people. So like someone can make buy a bunch of beads and make a necklace and sit on the street and sell it for $1. Or you can make 5 of them, find a big party, buy a thrift store dress, go in there and say they're $3,000 a piece.
Right.
And you sell them.
That's a lot easier to sell one thing for $1,000 than 1,000 things for $1.
I know people who they do one deal a year and they make $300,000 and then they don't work for the year.
It's all about who you know.
Yeah.
And being confident.
If you can convince a rich person to buy something off you, then that's it. And I'm not saying everyone can do that. I'm saying there are people I know who are like, I don't like working at a cafe anymore. And they went and sought out like Beverly Hills parties, went to bars, met people and got connected.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they're just rich.
But if you like
For no
have this
reason.
philosophy that it's all the oppressive versus the oppressed, that it comes with like a certain hopelessness, I feel like,
Yeah.
that keeps people from taking chances or doing entrepreneurship things because they feel like the system will never render any success for them.
But I have a feeling if any of those people made a couple million, they would quickly change their tune about oppressor versus oppressed. Once you get that money, man.
All right, we got some big news here. The dude Abide says, hey guys, update here in Illinois. The assault weapons ban has been upheld by the 7th Circuit. It's expected to get scooped up by SCOTUS and heard next year. P.S. You should have Colleen Noir or Mark Smith from 4 Boxes Diner on.
We should.
Colleen's been invited. He has an open invite. He's a busy guy. He's doing his thing. Yes, this will be very, very interesting. And I also want to stress in Lauren Southern's Infringed documentary, Lauren Southern and John Dutoit, their documentary is coming out tomorrow on Timcast.com. And we're actually going to have, we're going to put up clips as well. So we'll have like 10-minute clips up on the main YouTube channel. But if you want to watch the full thing, it's going to be a members-only documentary experience at Timcast.com. And we're also going to be heavily investing in an ad campaign promoting it. So let me just say a few things. When you become a member at Timcast.com, the money that we get from you as a member basically supports the infrastructure of the website, all the digital stuff, the streaming. It helps cover the costs of the building, the employees. That's what it's all going to. And then we take the extra and we go to people like Lawrence Southern and John and we say, like, how would you like to make this documentary about this issue? Could you do it? And they say yes. Then we say, now we're going to take even more money and we're going to buy massive ads across Facebook and X and YouTube promoting what we want to win, which is the right to keep and bear arms. So I just want you to consider this. When you're watching the Uncensored Member Show and you're having a good time, that money you give us isn't just so you can watch the show and we go buy cheeseburgers with it. It's literally now funding commercials promoting gun rights. So it's not that we're doing it as an activist organization. We're hoping to make money by doing it. But this is the cultural expansion. So I really do appreciate everybody who becomes a member because that's what we're doing.
Plus, we buy Taco Bell anyways.
Big Macs are too expensive.
Yeah. But just understand that the things we invest in are cultural victory. And I hope that the large amounts of money we invest in marketing this, the ads in and of themselves are a cultural victory in expanding. It's not only about that we're literally promoting the right to keep and bear arms. It's that by putting money into this, what happens is you get other channels being like, wait. You're going to pay me how much to sponsor a mess you're going to sponsor X amount of dollars to promote gun rights. A lot of channels will then say, I will absolutely accept a gun rights promotion ad if it makes me money. And they may be apolitical. They may not even care. And now you have a bunch of channels that are like maybe video games talking about the right to keep and bear arms. And that's how you reach people in other spaces. So we're doing the work. All right, where do we go? What is this? Alahad says, hi, Tim. I suffer from paranoid psychosis, and sometimes my anxiety makes life a living hell. SSRIs are a godsend, if not overprescribed, saved my life. Fair, absolutely. Glad to hear that that's working out for you. And I think it's fair to say, yeah, I don't want to demonize everybody who takes SSRIs either. You got people on the right who don't want it to be guns. So they say, hey, it's the drugs. And it's like, how many people are taking the drugs and how many mass shooters do you have? It's microscopic. Mm-hmm. How many people own guns? How many mass shooters do you have? It's microscopic. Mm-hmm. Let's just blame people who are unwell and figure out how we can stop them.
Yeah.
And actually help them before it gets to that point.
Yeah, and I think the point about SSRIs is good because there are people who benefit from it. I'm not trying to say all modern medicine is awful just on its face, but you know, I'm sure this person could also say that it wasn't it would be unusual to hear that it was just you were prescribed something the first time and it worked immediately. Unfortunately, there's a lot of trial and error, and that comes with serious risks. It's not a perfect system, but hopefully something works.
Yeah. Maybe your gut biome, maybe probiotics. I'm not a doctor or anything, but a lot of that mental stuff starts in the gut. So check out your gut.
So real quick, Loud Revolution says, Tim, the Chinese billionaires lose because they launder money through casinos.
That's awesome.
Full stop. You are incorrect, sir. When you're playing a private game where the buy-in's $1 million, they're only losing to each other. The house, typically it's called a time rake at these high-level games. They're not, my understanding is, they're not taking a rake off the table. They're charging for the time that they're in the private room. So every player who comes in, higher stakes, usually it's like every half an hour you pay a certain amount of money. And it's actually the higher you go, it does not go higher. It's just these rich guys go to the casino and say, we'll pay you $20,000 for a private room and a dealer for 3 hours. And they go, okay. Then they all play millions of dollars and they lose it only to each other. So they could be laundering through each other. Fair point. The two Chinese billionaires could be like, oh no, I lost $1 million to this guy. And that's a way to make a political contribution or something. That's the scary thing, right? Politicians play poker. And that's the easiest way.
Wow.
Yes, right. You
That's why
get.
it was so frowned upon to have a pool table in the White House. Was like Jackson or somebody the first one to put a pool table in the White House, and it was like a big story when it happened because gambling was associated with pool tables.
Politician goes to a casino and plays, let's say 10.25 buy-in, $10.25 blinds, and so we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. Someone actually thinks they're going to win, but just goes, man, I fold. And then the dealer shoves 10 grand into that politician's lap, which he can then use for whatever he wants. He's got to pay taxes on it. It's gambling winnings, but that's one way to get large sums of money to politicians. That stuff's got to be checked out. But I think there's really nothing you can do in that regard. But again, fair point. That's why they may be laundering money through each other, but not losing to the casinos. All right, let's grab some more. Tyler Adams says, Tim, have you seen the final episode of Attack on Titan from this weekend? If so, what did you think? I didn't, but I think I read the manga a long time ago. So I don't know. That's a great show, by the way. It's a great story. A great story.
Yeah, great animation.
Last name, first name says apparently an older gentleman got attacked by a Palestinian protester in LA and died from a head wound on the way to the hospital. Ali and Jack posted on Twitter. I did see this. We do have some stories from local Jewish outlets, and I don't know if we had enough information to actually report it tonight, but there's photos and there's video. An old man reportedly was hit in the face by a pro-Palestinian protester with a megaphone, fell down, and hit his head and died. So I don't know to what degree we have confirmation yet because we haven't been tracking the stories we've been doing the show, but I recommend fact-checking that one.
I just got to chat. 1998, this is from Dane Font. 1998 was the greatest year in gaming history. Nothing has ever come close. He has receipts to back it up, too, yeah. Fallout 2, Baldur's Gate, Half-Life, Resident Evil 2, the list goes on. Xenogears.
He's right. Superstation year? Or, excuse me, the
Dane's
PlayStation
forte.
year?
Metal Gear Solid.
Dane is correct.
95, I think, is when PlayStation came.
He's got a clip you saying that.
95.
There's probably way more games, too, in 98. Resident Evil 2.
Brood War. Oh, it goes on. Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 was like a revolution. I remember
Ocarina of Time. Jeez.
Yeah,
Mario
That's a
Party.
good year.
Mario Party.
Yeah, 98. Yep.
Pokemon Yellow holding it down.
Yep. I think
Yellow.
Pokemon Snap and
We
stuff.
have more super chatters. I don't want to steal the. Thanks, Dane. But Thief,
Wow,
the Dark
but
Project. That was
Ocarina
pretty,
of
if you
Time
like
is a big
sneaking
deal.
around. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a big deal. That game was also
Those speed runs are crazy.
groundbreaking.
Yeah.
What do we got? Chaco Paco Taco says Zelensky is saying irresponsible to hold elections during war with Russia. Democracy? Still sending the money? Where is this story? That's right. Zelensky said we can't do elections. We can't. It's just now's not the time. I'm the president.
Did you see him say we can't surrender to this effing terrorist Putin? He's like speaking in English now.
Yeah.
Zelensky. It was kind of
saw
cool.
him,
Except they beeped it.
Say that the attempts on his life have left him scarred and disfigured, and that he would be creating the first Ukrainian empire.
Oh, interesting.
Who said that?
Zelensky. Yeah.
After
He said-
Mace Windu.
Yeah.
So this is how democracy dies.
Yeah, he was like notably like we're losing our best humans.
Yeah.
This is horrible, and we got to stop, but we don't want to surrender.
We got big news. Jason Dixon says, Tim, please shout out your Discord. We are going to have Scott Pressler on our After Dark show tonight. Timcast.com members only have access. Join us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you become a member at Timcast.com, go to Timcast.com, click join us, get access to the Discord server. After our uncensored show wraps, Scott Pressler will be hanging out in the server with all y'all. So that's really, really cool what you guys are working on. That's fantastic. Great to hear it.
I love this grassroots organizer going super grassroots on Discord.
Dude.
When he was on the show, they were like, come on. He was like, I absolutely will. It's not surprising to me that he made it happen
He's
so
so
fast.
legit.
He's so fun.
All right, what do we got? Why Not Bill says, maybe if you finished school, Tim, you would be able to read that word. JK, school is stupid. Yeah, you know, I pulled a Biden. I accept it methodically. I couldn't read it. I want to say methodologically because I'm always talking about the methodological and technological advancements in journalism. It's like a thing. And so I'm trying to read this word, but my brain is not pressing methodically.
Yeah, it was
With the emphasis on the wrong syllables.
Exactly. Yep. That is exactly what happened. And, we all have our Biden moments. The only problem is that Biden has them seemingly every day, which we call, that's why we call them Biden moments.
Yes.
You know?
His are consecutive all the time, and that's too much.
Yes. All right. True Biz says, Tim, the problem they have with you're not radical either way. Common sense is a threat to the establishment. We all appreciate you and others keeping America informed. Thanks. I do think this. We're not partisan enough. And so if someone is very directly partisan, staunchly conservative or whatever, it's very easy for the establishment to call them an other. Mm-hmm. But it's much, much harder when you have this room. When Hassan Piker calls Ian a conservative, everybody laughs at him.
Right.
Like anybody who's looking at Ian, it's like, what is he? Is that green velvet? And
Sure is.
Right. It's like, this is not a representation of a conservative. So Hassan struggles to criticize Ian as an other. But Ian has ideas that contradict the establishment narrative. How do you constrain something like that? It's easy to point to Jack Posobiec wearing a suit and be like, haha, look at that suit wearing guy. He's not like us. Mm-hmm. We're cool in our leather jackets. And then you get green velvet Ian and they're like, hey, he's conservative.
This is inspired by Chase Geiser, by the way, with his badass blazer over there.
Oh, thanks. I
appreciate
appreciate
it. I got to man up. I got to
Alex
suit
Jones
up.
was right. Lightning bolt. Look at that. Right. All right. We'll grab some more super chats. Grant Arnett says, did you finish Attack on Titan? If so, what are your thoughts? Man, everybody's asking me. I thought the manga was over a long time ago. I'm pretty sure I read the end. I don't know. I'll have to check it out. Let's grab some more. What do we have here? X, Y, and Z says, how about this for an executive order? Any university that takes federal money has to reach into its own endowments to pay off their past students' debt. Problem solved. Here's an executive order. As of January 1st, 2024, all universities are hereby dissolved.
That's what I'm talking about.
What about like Hillsdale though?
The authority
Hillsdale-
Radical problems require
doesn't
radical
exist.
solutions, baby.
I mean, there
All.
are. Oh, okay. Even the privately funded ones, they have to collapse too.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Interesting.
Diabetes is illegal.
And then we send in the National Guard.
There goes your insulin prices.
They should at least stop calling them universities because they're using the word universe. That's cheap.
Nonpartisan Kitty says McDouble used to be $1.10. Now it's $4.95. I'm assuming that's like in some urban markets, but man, remember the dollar menu?
Yep.
Yeah.
Wendy's
I
dollar
don't.
menu.
I do not remember.
It
I mean,
was
I feel
actually
like,
$1 like
Yeah.
I
20
thought
years
it was
ago.
just
Yeah.
the fries were $1. Everything.
But I
after
just
that
want to
was like
stress,
Frosties were a buck.
if you went back to like 1870 and said you were eating off the dollar menu, they'd be like, whoa!
$1. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like an
Menu.
acre of land.
We got a Richie boy
They'd
over
be like
here.
menu. We don't
You got a
get this at
homestead
all.
with that.
Yeah.
Would
The
you
dollar
like a-
menu in the 1800s, you're like buying a house for
Yeah,
dinner.
it's like literally just the state of Illinois. Would you like a state?
That's kind of crazy though. Like, what would you do if you were buying something? They had half pennies back in the day.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sometimes a penny's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, Manhattan was bought for what, $24 and some goods. $24 for the
It's
entire.
about how much it's worth now.
Yeah, but hold on. Is that $24 in today's dollars or their
No, it was back then, but it's still
Even
$24
so.
bucks. It's not that.
Oh,
much.
right.
What was 24?
The Manhattan Island. But the other issue is that what people don't understand about this is that it actually wasn't bought for anything. The Native Americans
Right,
were like,
right.
these crazy guys are giving us money for no
Yeah,
reason.
Yeah.
And they were like, we just don't want you. And they're like, okay, we'll go there. Like
60 guilders worth of goods that are worth around
is a
24.
guilder?
I don't know, but
Please
they
tell me
gave
that
it.
unit.
Peter Minuit
Is that like pallets of stuff?
from the West India Company purchased it.
So I want you to imagine this. Imagine there's a guy watering a lawn and you walk up to him and say, I'll give you $50 for this house. And he goes,
Okay.
sure. Then you give him the $50 and then he
Pulls out a
walks
gun.
across the street to his house and goes into his house that he lives in because he doesn't own that property.
It's not my dog, right?
That's basically what happened with the
Inspector
Native Americans
Clouseau.
on Manhattan Island. They're like, if you guys go across the river, we'll give you $20. They're like, deal.
Apparently, a guilder is translated from Dutch German gulden, meaning a gold penny.
Ah.
So maybe they actually give
Wyofet says Tim, a McDouble here in Rock Springs, Wyoming is $2.49 before tax. I still would not recommend eating it at all.
Yeah, start cooking. Get some red lentils. You hit them with some
I,
oil, get
Yeah,
them
how much
sizzling, and then boil them for about 15 minutes. Some salt and vinegar. Oh my! It's the best base. You can make so much goodness out of that.
So last week, Monday, I was feeling really bad, achy, stiff, and I'm like, man, it's like something's going on, you know? And so this past weekend, I ate pretty well. We went to a nice dinner. I had like a soup. It was a really nice restaurant that had pretzels as an appetizer and dinner rolls. And I'm thinking it was the bread. So Monday, I'm feeling stiff and achy for no reason. I was rested, so I stopped eating the bread. The next day, I went pure keto, 100%.
Yeah.
Because I was doing keto for a while, and then I eased off it, but I'm still relatively low carb. And then I cut bread out entirely, but kept some starches. And I feel like $1,000,000. I think the bread. I say this all the time. The bread's screwing me up.
it cuts down into sugar. Yeah,
But I think it's the gluten.
it breaks it into sugar. Your body does.
I've had no problem with potatoes, and I had a nice dark chocolate with some carbs in it, and some maple honey mustard with beef, but no bread, and $1,000,000. I really do think it's the gluten.
yeah, man.
I don't know, but you know,
Take 10 days
I'm
off
trying
of
to
gluten.
I'm doing like that isolation diet stuff that like the
Yeah,
Petersons
nice.
have talked about.
Yeah.
Nice.
You gotta do the Shackleton diet, just penguins and ice.
Penguins. But I'm gonna. So
Do you know
for
the cost of penguins these days? Are you crazy?
I did keto for like almost a year and a half, 2 years, or yeah, just about, and felt great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, now I'll reintroduce a little bit, but keep it low. And then started feeling wonky.
Yeah.
And I think it was bread specifically because now we went out to eat and I had like a soup and I had Brussels sprouts and like a small amount of potatoes. No problems.
I did it for 6 months, but I lost too much weight. I went from 185 to 147.
Wow.
I'm 6'2".
Yeah, that's way too much.
Did you
I'm
feel
5'11".
good?
I felt great, but my doctor.
5'11"?
You're 5'11". That's a fake height.
I felt great, but my doctor.
You
said that I
actually
needed
are
to gain
6'2"
weight.
though, right?
Yeah.
So did you do bread?
But you're not allowed to say that under President DeSantis.
It's funny.
I
The
just
guy-
started eating normal again, like an American, and I gained half the weight back.
Here's the funny thing: the 6'2" guy is so comfortable with his height. He jokes about how he's actually shorter because he doesn't care.
Right.
Whereas the short guy is nervous and lies as he's 5'11" because he's embarrassed about his height.
If you're actually 5'11", you just say you're 6 feet. It's such a
Right.
fake height.
It's a fake height.
5'11 and a half. That was mine for a long time.
I'm 5'10" and 7/8.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah,
Have you measured yourself?
I can't say 5'11".
Elizabeth Warren is 1/1024th Native American.
She is.
She's 500 times. Barack
Somewhere
Obama's
down
500
line.
times more white than she is Native American.
Wow, 500 times.
Cool.
It's a fun ratio.
What the Costco CEO actually said, we can't say on YouTube, and it's so amazing. We will say it as the first line on the members only show.
It's hilarious.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
No, he said something way more serious
It's
than
funnier
that.
than that.
It's
If you
amazing.
Wow,
believe
that's
it.
one of the best moments in cinema.
Someone just said sauna in the chat. I did do a sauna today. Highly recommend saunas, by the way.
We got the cold plunge ready to go, and I think the hot tub's working again.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna get that cold plunge up and ready.
Someone said that the baptism from the Bible was just Jesus doing cold plunges on people. That was the funniest comment, and I wonder if it's some truth to that.
All right, Cole Leonard says a steak and guac bowl at Chipotle with a drink is almost $20. Had to switch to chicken and no guac to save money. Dude, that video where the woman's like, I went to the store and I couldn't afford to buy meat. It's just like, eat the bugs.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
No, thank you.
Your children are going to, man, you guys ever watch V for Vendetta? Of course.
Yep.
Remember the scene where she's, when V takes her to his underground lair and she's eating the toasty and she's like, is that real butter? I haven't had this since I was a kid. That's the future for your kids if they're lucky.
It's like 1984 with the coffee. Is that real coffee?
She's going to be sitting in the room and she's going to bite into it and go, is this real butter? And then he's going to be like, it is real virtual butter. And then she's going to toggle her VR headset and then be sitting in her pod and she's going to reach with almost no room to a cockroach and eat it and go, wow, real butter. Anyway, put her VR goggles back on.
I got a feeling that the bugs aren't going to be that bad. If they're made like
Propaganda.
lobsters,
No.
they used to call
Propaganda.
lobsters disgusting insects, and now they're like the most like if they're prepared right, it's just protein.
Some of them, but remember when we tried the cricket bread?
Yeah.
It was not good. It was like D plus C minus.
I think there's a reason we have a psychological aversion to insects when we see them.
Yep.
No, I don't completely agree. I think any man should eat bugs just so they're prepared for if they have to eat bugs.
Right, you got to practice.
I'm just saying like this. I view learning how to use a firearm similarly to understanding what bugs you can and can't eat, what leaves you can and can't eat. You should know these things, not because the world is going to end or because you're a prep or anything. It's because maybe one day you're out on a hike and there's like a road closure or a flood happens, and then you're with some people and you need to survive for like 16 hours and you need to know
It's
where
going to take
you are.
longer than 16 hours before I start eating bugs, though. I might just skip
No,
a
for
meal
sure.
that day.
What I'm saying is sometimes emergencies happen.
Yeah.
And how prepared are you, excuse me, for actual conflict?
Right.
I'm okay with it being like in an emergency survival, lost in the Grand Canyon for 3 weeks. You got to know what bugs you can eat. I'd be down for that. I understand that purpose, but it's the slowly they'll stop putting out meat in the
Right, the
grocery store,
false
and
scarcity
instead they'll be
narrative.
putting out your grasshopper patties and all stuff. Like I'm not ready to commit to that lifestyle. I don't want it to be this subtle change that people say, oh, it's an alternative. It's an alternative, and all of a sudden it's the main source of protein.
All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you do like it, and go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. The members only show is starting in a couple minutes. You don't want to miss it. We're going to read that very famous Costco line, which we can't read on YouTube. It's really, really great. And you also get access to our Discord server where Scott Pressler, I'm hearing, will be joining after the Uncensored show. So you don't want to miss that. So you definitely need to become a member, get in the Discord server, and you can even call in and ask us questions. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Chase, do you want to shout anything out?
Make sure you visit Infowars.com and InfoWarsStore.com. If you're feeling achy, I highly recommend the bodies. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter at RealChaseGeiser, and that'll be it.
Cool. It's been so fun having you here. I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should go to all of your social medias. Follow at Timcast News on, I guess, Instagram X. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at HannahClaireDuppy, and I'm on Twitter at HCBrimlow. Thank you guys so much. And of course, Ian.
I did a show with Chase, last week, I guess, on InfoWars. That was hot. What time is your morning show?
I am live on Infowars from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Time until Owen gets back from prison.
So that's 9 to
weird
noon
deadline.
Eastern.
9 to noon.
Awesome, man. And I want to encourage everyone, subscribe to Gamer Maids on YouTube, where we drop in and play video games from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern every Monday through Friday. Chris Poole and Sarah Jane killing it. They played, what were they playing earlier today? Better Together or something like that. It's that game where there's 2-player. It was pretty sweet. So they're almost to 1,000 subscribers. The channel gets monetized. I take super chats. A lot easier to see your chats when they're super. And also subscribe to me on YouTube and every social platform. I do interviews every day now, 2 p.m., 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be interviewing a nuclear investor in nuclear waste recycling. I interviewed Bill Ottman this morning, and the guests are just going to keep getting better. So subscribe, and I'll see you there.
And I am Serge.com. Y'all, it's been a good show. Pleasure to meet you, my friend.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm excited for this after show. Not much else to say.
All right. We'll see you all over at timcast.com in a couple minutes. Thanks for hanging out.